I'll call this meeting to order at 7:01. And in Lisa's absence, I'll read the list of attendance. Joe,
Here.
John Boniudo,
Here.
I'm here. Angela,
Here.
Alex,
Here.
Justin,
Here.
Jen,
Here.
Jane,
Here.
Julie,
Here.
Pete,
Here.
and Mary.
Here.
Mary's here. And Lisa, I assume, is still not here. It's unlikely she's going to be here tonight. All right. At this point in time, I would like to entertain any member of the public wish to comment on a matter that's on the agenda this evening. And if so, please use the raise hand feature, which can be found down in your reactions collection. That way I'll be able to spot you because I got to keep switching between screens. All right, I see one hand up, and that's Jessica Cassini. Or the person identified as Jessica Cassini. It's a blank screen, just a name.
Yep, it's me.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm trying to start the video. Okay.
Oh, there we go. We've got you now.
Yep. So I haven't spoken in a long time. Do I just say my name and where I'm from?
Yes, please. Your name and the town you're from.
Okay, Jessica Cassini from Roxbury, Connecticut. I figured I would just keep this short and sweet. As we've all seen, many states and countries around the world have lifted COVID restrictions as the worst of the pandemic is now behind us. There are invaluable lessons of socialization that should be taking place right now, but have been interrupted these last 2 years. My main concern is our children collectively, not just my 3, but all of ours. These restrictions will have lasting effects that will be felt generationally long after you or I have left this earth. The time to give the choice back to the parents and families regarding masks and vaccines is now. I implore you to do the right thing by our children, to follow the science, and make clear decisions based on facts, not fear. Thank you.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay. I see Dave Hendy. Oh, and after you've spoken, can you please all remember to remove the hand?
I'm not sure my video is going to work, so you're just going to get audio, I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll take audio.
I think it would be a mistake. My name's Dave Hendy. I'm from Bridgewater. I think it would be a mistake to introduce another sport, no matter what the sport. In a smaller district, such as Region 12, having additional sports, especially those without feeder program, as soccer, baseball, and basketball do, just reduces the talent pool as well as the numbers involved in each individual sport. We can see these effects in recent Region 12 history. I've been coaching soccer in the district with the club, as well as middle school and high school for 10 years. Trying to support hockey, soccer, and cross country with a declining enrollment led to the girls' middle school program, soccer program, going from over 20 girls to 8 girls in the space of 5 years. From a team that could compete with any in the Berkshire League to a team that wasn't even a team. When indoor track was introduced, the swim team numbers declined in a similar fashion. Soccer in Region 12 is thriving. The club is at record levels of participation at all levels. 2021 saw both varsity soccer teams reach the postseason playoffs. Now is not the time to introduce another sport. Thank you, board member.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Fiona now.
I'm sorry, I'm just realizing that the wrong name is on our screen because a student was using our computer. Her name's Fiona. I apologize. I'm like, nobody's speaking. Anyway, John also just pointed that out to me. Most of you know me and us. I'm Erin Mariano, and Peter's here as well. Again, I apologize for the mix up on the screen name. As many of you know, because of the mask mandate, our 3 children have been homeschooled for almost 2 years now. They've done very well with homeschooling. We've made the best of the last 2 years, using it as a teaching opportunity in any way possible. I feel that our kids have developed critical thinking skills. They've learned how to recognize bias. They've learned about propaganda. They've learned to look at issues from multiple sides and ask critical questions. They've learned that elected officials don't always act ethically. Perhaps most importantly, they've learned the importance of holding true to their core values no matter what, and how to support their immune system, and a whole lot about the founding principles of our country and our freedoms. Academically, they have also excelled in homeschooling. Yet, returning to traditional school has its appeal both for us and for the kids. They would love to rejoin their classmates in the classroom. So Lamont's announcement today, I feel, was a step in the right direction. I wish he had gone a little bit further. I think it's time not only to give the control back to local governments, but really to the parents themselves. There are a lot of us, many of whom have been silent on this issue for fear of being judged by peers, who are just against the masking at this point. It's gone on for too long. There are undoubtedly others that are still quite afraid. I know a few adults myself who have simply been hypnotized and traumatized from the 24-hour news cycle of fear, and they may never be able to recover a sense of security and may always view others as a source of disease or threat. And that, I feel, is a shame. But let's not instill this mistrust and this fear in our kids any longer than we already have. I think that this is an opportunity to let the kids breathe. If there are parents who want to keep the masks on their children and feel safer that way, then that can be their choice. I think every few months over the last year, we've learned something new about the pitfalls of COVID safety measures, that they're not so bulletproof as maybe we thought in the beginning. For example, we know now that the vaccines, while they may offer some level of protection, aren't the silver bullet they were sold as being, stopping COVID entirely. Now it's really just lessened symptoms and perhaps done a little bit more, but they also come with their own risks since they're still experimental. And a one-time vaccine is now unlimited boosters, which is, again, not what we were originally sold. Same thing has happened with PCR tests. Originally, they were reliable, and then they were less reliable, and they couldn't differentiate between the flu and the cold. Same thing with masks. Now, all of a sudden, the experts are acknowledging that these cloth masks that many kids have been wearing for 2 years aren't doing anything. So it's kind of like been this whole game of whack-a-mole trying to find the things that are going to actually help people feel secure. And I just feel at this point that parental involvement in decision-making is critical. That's really ultimately, I think we need to go back to individual responsibility. We need to be mindful, respectful, but parents really need to be able to make this decision for their kids. Everybody's defense all along has been, we're following the CDC's guidelines. But what people don't realize, many people, very intelligent people don't realize, is that the CDC is not really an independent agency. It receives millions of dollars each year from pharmaceutical companies. That's a fact. And it itself owns over 50 vaccine patents. So how an agency can bill itself as being unbiased and have that be the case is kind of mind-boggling to me. But most people don't look beyond the headlines. Anyway, I'm hopeful that the superintendent will do the right thing and remove entirely the mask mandate without discrimination in the schools. I do have a couple of concerns. The first is that the ESSER funds that the district has received do come with strings attached, meaning the school must continue masking and other recommendation protocols in order to receive the money. That's been my understanding. Perhaps correct me if I'm wrong there. but I'll be reaching out in an email to get further clarification on where those funds stand and how they might affect that decision. My second and last concern is that there will be board members who will encourage the superintendent to implement discriminatory policies with regards to masks and vaccine status. I think this would be a grave mistake, both legally and ethically. And that's really all I have to say. I know everybody's been doing their best. We've been far away from it all in the schools, but I do see when I log on to these meetings that everyone's trying very hard to keep everyone safe. And of course, I think that's appreciated by all, regardless of their stance on masking. Thank you.
What town were you from?
Bridgewater.
Thank you. All right, the next one I see is Rebecca Alfieri, or whoever's identified that way.
Hi, that's me. I just want to thank Jen. I just want to touch base a little bit on what she said. I had a whole thing written down and I said, you know what, let me just speak from my heart and honestly about my child and all children across the state of Connecticut. The social and emotional impact that this has created for our children, for me personally, goes far beyond putting a mask on. I truthfully believe in the power of a smile from a child. I think it can ignite for everybody, not just from children to children, but from children to teachers to administrators. I truthfully believe that the power of a smile can bring positivity and light to the end of this tunnel. And I mean, just for me personally, when my child is enlightened by something, and when I look at him and I see him smile, it brings joy inside my inner being. And I'm sorry, I'm really nervous because I don't like to talk publicly, but you know, I just want my son and I want the others who want their children to be unmasked and feel that their smile and their power can enlighten all and bring some light at the end of this tunnel. I just really hope that you really consider, you know, unmasking our children and just everybody coming back together as a community and making it optional. And we know what keeps people safe. And if people are scared, they can follow those rules. And I just hope people on the other end of the fence can, you know, have a little bit of light brought to their life, you know, through all this too. So I am in support of unmasking our children across Connecticut and in our region. Thank you.
What town are you from, please?
I am from Bridgewater.
Okay, thank you very much. I now see someone with the name Orletson.
Hi, my name is Nikki Orletsky. I'm also
Orletsky.
from Yep, Orletsky. Sorry, it's an Orletsky N.
Oh, I see. That's what it is. Got it.
That's okay. I'm from Bridgewater. My husband and I have two children now at Chapag. We have been here since our youngest was at Burnham. I just want to say thank you to everybody that has spoken so far. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, it was everybody very well spoken tonight. Thank you. And I also want to say thank you to Megan and the board members for allowing us all to speak. Tonight, I want to talk to you about fear. First, I want to tell you a little about how fear has personally touched my life. I'm a mom of 3 teenagers. I think everyone here knows what fear is when we bring children into our homes and into our lives. Everything from when they first come home at that first hospital night to teaching them how to drive. We all know fear. My son was born with a heart condition. He's had 2 10-hour heart surgeries. I definitely know fear. I have family members with cancer actively now and that have recovered. Other illnesses, that brings fear into our life too. My husband is a Navy pilot. He's been on many deployments where he's gone to many different countries, and I've had to raise our children solo while he's defending our country. I know fear. He is now a Delta pilot and has to deal with unruly passengers that we've all seen on the news that also brings added fear into my life. I'm a first grade teacher. I'm constantly worrying about my students and their families, especially when they live in not as nice a community as we live here in Region 12. I know fear. I have been a parent for 17 years, a Navy pilot wife for right around 20 years. And in those years, I have never shown my children or taught them that fear runs my life. I've never taught my students that fear needs to run our lives. Like many parents and teachers, I teach and model the pillars of character. I teach trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. Many of those, or all of them, is something that I know that Region 12 teaches our children. These past 2 years, our country and our school have taught and modeled fear. Despite my fears, I am here tonight to express my views that we are way past time to lift these mandates. It is time for our children to go to school and live in our community without fear. I want to stress how important it is that we move forward, just as everybody else has said, without prejudice, that all students have the right to show up to school and see smiles again and to live without fear. We are stuck and we need to start moving forward. And I beg and I plead with you that we have one life to live, and something that we teach in our life and here at our house is that we live by faith and not fear. And I beg you, I beg every person that is listening that you please give the powers back to the parents, that we have the right to have our children live without fear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I see Aaron and Matthew Light.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Light. I'm from Roxbury. And I too want to ask the superintendent and the board to please, once you're able to, give the power of choice back to the parents and let us decide whether we want to mask our kids or not. The bottom line for me is that children are not at risk from dying of COVID. They have a 98% recovery rate. And whether you are vaccinated or not, you can still spread it. Because of these facts, I believe that we need to stop the nonsense, stop masking, stop the distancing, let the kids be kids again. We need to learn to live with COVID the way we live with every other illness, and we need to take personal responsibility for keeping ourselves healthy. That's it. That's all I wanted to say, really. Just please unmask our kids. And another thing is, once you do, don't discriminate between those kids who are vaccinated and unvaccinated. Like I said, you can still spread COVID after you've been vaccinated, so there's no reason to discriminate. That's it. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Joy Rupert.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joy Rupert. I live in Bridgewater and I have 3 children in the district. There are so many benefits to a small school that we value immensely. We love our schools very much, but I think everyone could recognize that one of the disadvantages of a small school is limited opportunities for our children. By offering an opportunity to play football, it will make our schools more attractive to families who live in the district, families who want to move to the region, and those who wish to tuition in or send their children to the AgSTEM program. The children who will take part in the football co-op are most likely those who have been playing since they were young. These are families who have sought out football programs in surrounding towns, chosen to play years ago, and love the sport. Offering football will not take away from the current sports programs. In fact, there were so many students trying out for the soccer team this fall that we personally know a good number of middle schoolers that have played soccer for years and didn't make the team. As the number of students in our school increase, the pool of student athletes will only grow. All of our children deserve to play a sport that they love. Co-op sports programs are available for Chappaq students who wish to wrestle and to play ice hockey. It would be unfair not to also allow the opportunity for those students who wish to play football. Please vote yes to allow Chappaq students to participate in the football co-op program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to recognize Cindy Meglio now.
Good evening. I just want to say I agree with everything that everybody else has just said. I think it's time for the mask to come off. Region 12 is a tight-knit community. The parents, they do the right thing. We're good people. It's time to trust us. It's time to trust the parents to do the right thing by our kids. If they're sick, we'll keep them home. It's time for the mask to come off. I can't say that enough. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay,
What
thank you
town are
very.
from? What town are you from, Cindy?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm from Bridgewater.
Bridgewater, okay.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to recognize Jessica Granger at this point.
Hello, Region 12. This is Jessica Granger. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I too want to ask Region 12 to eliminate the mask mandate, as well as restrictions on activities that require vaccines. The majority of the United States currently do not have a mask mandate at schools. We're now in the minority. It's enough is enough at this point. Because of this pandemic response over the past 2 years, it's had a catastrophic impact on the economy and on people's mental health. Businesses have been lost, jobs have been lost. Yes, lives have been lost too. And the taxing of this pandemic response is impacting everybody negatively, and it's time to get back to business as usual. There's a number of things going on that are impacting all of our kids by wearing masks and by putting vaccine requirements on activities. The kids can't effectively communicate. The teachers can't effectively communicate with the kids. In my workplace, I cannot effectively communicate with other people with a mask over my face. So I cannot imagine how teachers in the classroom are able to do what they need to do, and the kids are effectively able to do their work with masks on. There's kids who are supposedly getting exposed to another kid that has COVID, and then they have to sit aside for gym, or they can't go to recess. They can't go outdoors. This is the most absurd thing that I've ever heard. They cannot play instruments. They can't sing in chorus. It's not helping anybody. And the response to the pandemic is increasingly been around fear mongering, which people succumb to. It's highly political, and it's greed. And those of us who know better and can cut through the BS know this is going on, and we're not going to accept it anymore. In the world, cancer is a higher cause of death than COVID. But is anyone mandating people live healthier lives? Are we mandating that people live healthier? Are we banning cigarettes? Are we banning tobacco? Are we removing toxins from products and foods? What about removing toxins from vaccines? Is anyone mandating that? No, because there's more money behind the pandemic. So as a parents, we're done with it. We're tired with the kids wearing masks and breathing dirty air all day, and increased frustrations with their ability to communicate in schools. It's time to stop the madness and get on with real life. I don't wear masks during the day to go where I need to go, to the grocery store, to buildings, to work. I went to a concert at Mohegan Sun with over 25,000 people sitting very close to one another where you're touching elbows, people laughing, singing, yelling, shouting, not a mask in sight. Did anyone hear about the insane COVID outbreak coming from the Blake Shelton concert at Mohegan Sun? No. You know why? Because there wasn't one and no one cares. So let's move on and get over it and do what's best for our kids and our school system and stop catering to the bullshit greed. Thanks.
What
All right,
town are you from?
Roxbury.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to call on Peter Mariano.
Hi, good evening. Thank you to the Board of Ed for your time you dedicate to the region. It's appreciated. I had a long and detailed presentation ready for everyone this evening. It showed the lack of any scientific data that proved the efficacy of masking kids in school. Charts comparing school districts in some states where they were masked versus not masked. And there is no statistical difference made in the masked versus unmasked school districts. I had data points queued up documenting the failed promises of this experimental vaccine and the countless damages it has been inflicting on adults and kids around the world. Luckily, thank you to our Excellency Governor Lamont, he made all of that a moot point with his press conference this afternoon. Removal of mandating masks on our school kids, giving it back to the Board of Ed, means that as of March 1st, there should not be any kid who doesn't want to be wearing a mask in Region 12. Parental choice is the final word, and there should be no further discussion on the matter. And to the point that some parents have made this evening's, anyone suggesting that unvaccinated kids would be segregated or have to continue to wear masks should be ready to hire a lawyer for the lawsuit that would be coming your way. So again, thank you for everybody's time, but essentially it's over. The masking has to come off March 1st or, like I said, there'll be lawsuits pending. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, I see Laura Ternicio.
Hi there. Yes, Laura Tornicio in the town of Roxbury. And I also support the parents having a choice about children being masked at school. As Peter just pointed out, of course, as of February 28th, that is the latest date that any schools or businesses are supposed to require any masking, according to Lamont's statement today. Therefore, prior to that, of course, masking can be ended. And so I fully support this choice being made by parents, by students, and I fully support that there should be no negative repercussions for any students with regard to their vaccination status and no segregation of any students due to vaccination status.
Okay. Allison Duman.
Hi, I'm Allison Duman. I'm from Bridgewater, and I have 3 kids in the school system, 1 at Burnham and 2 at Chippewa, and I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say that I agree wholeheartedly with the idea of parents being responsible enough and good citizens that we can make the decision ourselves on whether or not to mask our kids. And we love our kids. And so of course we want to keep them safe, and we would want any other parent to do the same. And so I think that we're all going to be looking out for each other and doing the right thing. And if our kid's sick, we keep them home. But our kids need to be kids again. And I think that when you look at the risk benefits, I think that it wholly outweighs to have these kids unmasked. And I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see anyone else with a hand up or who has used the chat feature to tell me if they couldn't put their hand up that they would like to speak. So do I hear, is there anyone else? Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I see someone new here. Deidre? Whoops, people keep jumping around.
Hello, everyone. I strongly feel that the masks and the COVID rules have had a negative social and emotional impact on all, especially the children. This will be felt for years to come. The masks do not keep people from getting sick. The masks do not stop the spread of COVID. And let's face it, most people are handling the masks and even reusing them. The masks do more to control people, especially the children, and limit their social interaction than they do to stop the spread of germs. Americans should be responsible for themselves. Remember, my body, my choice. Those who are afraid of COVID should do what they feel to be safer. Their body, their choice. They should be taking care of themselves. Funny, but the same people, when I look around, who are insisting on masks and believing that the unvaxxed are the ones spreading the disease, or mocking people when they hear that they're unvaccinated and maybe they got COVID, are the same ones who maybe packed on 15 pounds or more. They're the same ones who are not taking care of their own personal health. And let's face it, we've all had 2 years to do our best for ourselves and our families if we were really afraid. Some of us choose to bring tyranny, and they use the power of masks and mandates to have a little bit of power over other people. I firmly feel they should look to themselves and not expect others to take care of them if they can't take care of themselves first. Some of these people believe that the unvaxxed are the ones spreading the disease. You know, what do you say to some kind of stupidity like that? All you have to do is look at the weekly reports from school. We all know the staff is vaxxed. They were forced to, even if they didn't want to get it. We live in a small community. We know that most of the parents and even their children are vaxxed. So be it if they chose to do that. It's unfortunate if their employers force them. But the fact is, many people in our community are vaccinated. What are they afraid of? I thought the vaccinations were going to stop it. We would go back to no masks. We could travel. We could be American again. But just like all the conspiracy theorists said, that's not what happened. All the conspiracy theories proved to be real, and we're living it. Enough is enough. It's time we follow the Constitution. We let Americans have their freedoms. We let parents be parents. The same parents who want masks, the same parents bragging about the vaccines on Facebook, I can tell you they're the same ones who sent their kids to school with rotavirus or lice. God, they probably have bed bugs for all I know. I'm more concerned about getting bed bugs, to tell you the truth. I'm not worried about COVID. My kids and I have gone without masks. The only time they wear masks is when they're in school. None where we have vaccines, we don't have the mRNA shot. There is no way I will do that until it's proven. Okay, I'm not a guinea pig. My children will not be a guinea pig. None of you have gotten the real shot, but you think you're safe. Enough is enough. These children deserve to be free. I haven't gotten COVID. My kids haven't gotten COVID. We haven't spread COVID because we're not sick. But you should hear some of the things other children say amongst themselves. You know what I'm really worried about? I'm worried about the sexual aggressors in school. I'm worried about the vandalism coming into school or the theft. the destruction in locker rooms. I'm worried about making sure the children, when they go to the library, that they're not picking up books about rape, or little boys telling little girls that rape doesn't happen, they get clapped. Those are the things I'm worried about. I'm worried about the kids being saved. I am not worried about COVID. If people want to wear masks, if that's what they want for themselves and children, that's their right. But let the rest of us make the choices for our families. I'll bet you, even the ones who are wearing masks or they say that they're doing what they think is right, the mask will come off for them too. So hopefully you do the right thing and you don't make it personal. You don't make it political. And you think about these kids, because depression has gone up, suicide has gone up. No one talks about that. But a lot of bad things are happening to these kids. And you know it's happening with some of the Region 12 kids too. Do you want that on your hands? I don't want to see it for anyone that I know. So I ask that you lift the mask ban and let us make our own decisions for our own families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And what town
Victoria
were you
Salem.
from?
Roxbury.
All right, the next one I see is Victoria Ceylon.
Hi, good evening. My name is Victoria Ceylon and I'm from Bridgewater. You know, I have pages of notes here that I have written out for the past month. And I'm not going to read from those. I'm going to speak.
Excuse me, Victoria.
From my heart.
Victoria.
Last month, my
Victoria.
son Ryan and I.
Victoria.
Yeah.
You're cutting in and out. Do you have a place you can go that has a little better
Yes.
signal? Because we can't hear anything you're saying. It's just like twanging in and out.
Yes.
I don't know if you have a place in your house that's got a better signal.
Okay. Hold on.
Greg, maybe
Yeah.
if it drops the video, it would help.
Well, that could. I don't know what system,
Is this better?
Not really, but try talking again and maybe it'll
Yeah,
come through.
Victoria, it's Jessica. Try dropping your video. That'll help your service.
Okay. Now. I can
Yeah, if your
figure
bandwidth is limited,
out how to
video
do
taking up a lot of it.
that.
On the bottom of the screen.
Ryan.
There you go. Very good.
Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Again, let me start over. My name is Victoria Ceylon, and I am from Bridgewater. And I have spent the last month going over things that I wanted to talk about tonight in reference to football. And I have pages and pages here in front of me. And I'm not going to talk from that. I'm going to speak to you from my heart. I listened to every single thing that was said by each one of you who spoke about football last month. And some of the things I agreed with, and some of the things I did not agree with. I was so surprised with some of the things that were said, how it was a waste of time to even be discussing football, how it was going to ruin the soccer program, and how Chapag, why introduce something new to Chapag when, everything is going so well at Chapag right now? Why introduce another sport? The bottom line is we are talking about children. We are not talking about politics. We are not talking about adult feelings. We are talking about children. And we are talking about an outlet that a sport allows these children. We are in unprecedented times right now. We are in the middle of a pandemic or just finishing a pandemic. And we have no idea what this has done to our students. Our students need sports. They need the socialization. They need the empowerment of sports. We're not asking for Chicago to house a football team. We're asking for the opportunity to be in a co-op with another school. There's a handful of students that are interested in football, who have gone through the Pop Warner system and who have played as youths. You offer a co-op in one other sport. How is it that you can say yes to enter into a co-op with that one sport, but you can't say yes to football? Is that fair? That's not fair at all. And what kind of message as adults are we sending to these children? Oh, Tom and Bill can go into a co-op at another school for hockey, but you can't enter into a co-op because we don't want it, because it might ruin our soccer program. You know, I'm going to leave it at that, but I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening, for voicing your opinions, and for doing what you do for this wonderful community that we're a part of now. I'm thankful every day for the education my son is receiving at Chicago. I'm grateful for all the opportunities that he has been offered. I hope that you vote yes for football to offer him and other Chicago students the opportunity to play football. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next one I see in order of going on is AT. Is AT still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Could you identify yourself and the town you're from?
Yes, hi, my name is Alan Tenhove. I'm from Washington. I'm a parent of Region 12 students, and I wanted to talk about the COVID policies in our schools. Even with certain measures in place, there have been a lot of positive cases in the public school community this year. Since winter break alone, Region 12 has managed to accumulate about 138 cases, which is it's a big number for a small community, and that's not counting the first 4 months. Conversely, the private schools in and around the region with strict vaccine and testing requirements that include screening entire households before students return from break have had almost no cases all year long, and none since winter break. Our public schools currently have common sense measures for diseases that barely exist in our country anymore, precisely because of those very measures. Yet the one disease that's threatening us right now is permitted to reign free. It's clear we need vaccine mandates combined with the standing mitigation efforts, such as masks and distancing, if we're going to have a chance to control this virus the way we've controlled measles and polio. To even consider removing the mask mandate before implementing a vaccine mandate seems negligent. The effectiveness of masks to prevent the transmission of COVID is not a belief or an opinion to be discussed. It's just a scientific fact. I realize there are still people who don't believe in science and people who feel politically obligated to deny and obstruct it. But that shouldn't be the problem of those who have taken proven steps again and again and again, especially in a region with an ag STEM program. People want masks gone? Well, take the steps to make it safe enough to do so. We can't afford to indulge the people gleefully endangering the rest of us. We live in communities, we have mutual obligations. People in our community have pre-existing conditions or are of a certain age that make them more likely to have bad outcomes if they get COVID. We don't get to tell them that the pandemic is over. We should be creating and enforcing coherent school mandates, including vaccines for all staff and students, and have no community cases before removing masks. Proselytizing for a predetermined conclusion under the guise of objective evidence-based analysis is not science. It's not even an evidence-based discussion of the pros and cons. It's simply, here is the conclusion we've come to, and here is the argument we would use in favor of this conclusion. It boggles my mind that we live in a school region that outwardly champions critical thought, science, and community, yet bit by bit, through scaling back mitigation efforts instead of fortifying them, we're being forced to surrender safety and freedom to satisfy a misinformed political ideology. When people say, I don't want a vaccine or that masks don't work, they are disregarding other people's safety because they have bought into that political ideology. The problem isn't just them getting COVID, it's them spreading it to others. Living under the threat of a preventable and evolving virus because of the tyranny of petulant ignorance as we enter our third year of this pandemic is obscene. It is not free, it is not appropriate. I can't pretend to understand why people who don't believe in masks or vaccinations are making decisions that are so absent of compassion. I'm done with COVID is code for I'm pretty sure I'll be okay if I get infected, and what happens to other people is of no concern to me. Other than being selfish and privileged, this is a short-sighted, unscientific view. More cases equal strains on healthcare and other systems, risk of new variant, preventable deaths, and on and on. Public school parents should feel confident that all proper steps are being taken to keep both students and staff safe from the virus. That includes masking, social distancing, vaccination, contact tracing, 10-day isolation for all those infected, and a distance learning option. If public education doesn't have the sense to require regular testing and vaccines like the private sector, don't take away one of the basic safety measures that has protected kids against COVID for 2 years. Masks should not even be on the chopping block unless there is a regular testing and vaccine mandate put in place. Until there is, we are not free, and this is not appropriate. If we were to do away with mitigation measures where the schools are concerned and basically throw in the towel, that's bound to lead to more COVID cases, more hospitalizations among children, and possibly more deaths. Even with mitigation measures, more than 1,000 children have died as a result of COVID-19. That's nothing compared to the amount of grandparents we didn't have to lose, the funerals we've missed. In the past 4 weeks alone, the state has racked up a staggering 1,006 official deaths due to COVID. That's 1/10 of the deaths over the past 22 months. The town of Washington has racked up over 150 positive cases in the same time frame, more than 33% of its 22-month total. Declaring an end to the pandemic when thousands of people are dying every day is precisely the type of ignorance we're battling. Moving past a pandemic isn't a choice akin to what socks to put on. A board or a governor doesn't decide a pandemic is over. A parent doesn't decide when a pandemic is over. Human behavior does. An infection rate of 1 to 1 does. We're not even close to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next one I see is Carl's iPhone. And if you would please identify yourself and your town.
Yes, the name is Carl Bonomo. I'm from Bridgewater. I've been listening to what everyone is saying. I know everyone is well-intentioned, and I know we're all trying to do what we think is best for all of us, especially for the children in this particular instance. All I really want to say is that I hear everyone banning about, what the facts are. And I don't want to even talk about the facts because I don't think until we all face each other and we produce the data or we produce the facts from reputable sources, everyone on both sides, it's just conjecture, right? So what I believe about the data and what I've done with the data doesn't matter. So I just want to speak from the heart. I know we're all trying to do the best, but I have to tell you, every day when I put my children on the bus and I see all those kids looking out the window with their masks on, I think to myself, I hope we're right. I hope we are right, because if we're not right, we have taken these children, we have masked them, we have put them on buses, and we've sent them off to school where they stay with those masks on. And if we're wrong, if this is doing nothing to really protect them, if we've made that mistake, we've taken the most vulnerable group, the group I know we all care about the most. That's the kicker, right? These are the ones we really care about. That as that yellow bus pulls away, I think to myself every single day, I hope we're right. Because you know what? We're all going to have to live with it if we're wrong. So we should be careful here. And I think what we should do, I speak for myself here, is I see no benefit to these masks because it's a low population that in terms of deaths, but more importantly, it's How risky is it? What do we know? I'm, how long are we willing to play with these kids' lives? So that's right. We unmask them. People think, well, that's the end of it, right? The kids are going to suffer. We mask them. They're going to be fine, or they're going to suffer. These are the most vulnerable group, and we all know that. I know we're all trying, but I see those kids on the bus, and all I can think is, we may be wrong. And so we better tread lightly, because these innocent little children that don't have a voice, that have a right to a childhood, a normal childhood, we may be taking that away for no good reason. So we better make damn sure that we've got the data and we know, and it's not just how we feel. The last gentleman that spoke, I get what he feels, but produce the data. I want us all to sit in a room and say, here's the data. All we're talking about is what we think the data is. I want to see all the data, because my kids, the decision that everyone's making, my kids will suffer the consequences of that, good, bad, or indifferent. So I want to thank everybody for what they're doing. I know we all want the same thing. I'm just saying tread lightly here. And I think to err on the side of caution is to take these masks off, because we know that this is not normal for kids. We know because none of us grew up with this. That's all I want to say. Tread lightly and err on the side of the children. I know we're all well-intentioned, and that's the kicker here. We all want to do the right thing. And I think that's taking the masks off. Thank you for tolerating it. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. The next one I see is Michael Romano.
Hello, I'm a Bridgewater resident. I have two daughters, one in Burnham, who's in second grade, and one in the REACH program in Washington. I operate a business in New York City, which required us to have COVID compliance officers. So I was sent for 2 weeks of training to understand what a properly fitted N95 mask is, what a fit test is. I can tell you that I have never seen anyone wearing a properly fitted N95 mask, nor have I seen anyone having a mask properly fitted. So I say, take the masks off the kids. They're not doing anything. Anyone that believes you're going to stop COVID and measles, mumps, rubella just needs to research what animal reservoirs are. I think the masks are detrimental to our children. And truly, as a parent who was forced to get vaccinated to keep my job in New York, I can tell you that I dread every morning sending my kid to school with a mask on, knowing there's no possible way she could actually wear a properly fitted N95 mask based on a fit test, knowing that we have conversations in the car about COVID and diseases and spreading everything. And I think it's time for it to end. So my opinion is take the masks off the kids, learn to live with this, as unfortunate as it is, and respect everyone's opinions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person I see wanting to speak is Ryan Salon.
Hi. Good evening, Superintendent Bennett, members of the board, and Mr. Parachi. If you have forgotten who I am, my name is Ryan Salon, and I am an 8th grader here at Chapag. I love my school. I love the new friends that I made, and I love the Chapag family-like atmosphere. But one thing I don't love here at Chapag is that football's not offered for me and other students. We all know that the conversation of football consumed the majority of the meeting last month. I would like to thank you all for allowing me to open my mind, my heart, and to speak freely to you last month, to all of you. Yet I was left with unsettling thoughts, feelings, and questions. Isn't life about taking chances? Times are changing, people are changing, and we're living in some very unsettled times. Sports are extracurricular activities. The way I see it is that sports are offered to children to get them moving, to socialize, to learn structure, commitment, and most of all, respect. You all have taken a chance on other sports before one of which was hockey. You offer the students of Chippewa an opportunity to play hockey through a co-op. Why are you offering the few students who have an interest in hockey this opportunity to play, but you won't offer me and a handful of other students the same opportunity to play football? I just don't understand this. How could you do this for some and not others? Is that fair? I don't really think so. At Chippewa, I hear staff always saying in the halls and in classes how we should be fair and treating others with respect and fairness. I feel myself and other football players at Chippewa are not getting that treatment that athletes get at Chippewa. Just because we aren't playing a sport offered by Chippewa, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like soccer. I don't like baseball. I don't like basketball. I love football. But this is my choice. And why are you choosing it for me, what sport I play? It was mentioned last month. Have you ever thought that maybe some people just don't like soccer or other sports offered? That choice should be my choice and not 12 board members' choice. I feel it's not right, and nor is it fair. And listen, you all took a huge chance on the Agriscience program, and now look at how wonderful that is. So let's do the same with football. Again, sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zones and take a chance on people and ideas. I'm not here just for myself. I'm here for any present and future students at Chippewa who may have an interest in football. I don't know of many students who are interested in football here at Chippewa, but there are a few of us. Many of my friends who play soccer say if football was an option, they wouldn't leave soccer. They said they would stay with soccer till they graduate. You have never given football a chance at Chippewa. So how do you know how it will impact other sports and how it will impact your school? Don't forget, we are not asking for a team to be housed at Chippewa. We are asking for the opportunity to play in a co-op at another school with another team while going to Chippewa. Give us a chance, give us equal opportunity, give us hope, and most of all, please give football a chance at Chippewa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now move on to Jessica and Michael Patterson.
Hi, I'll be speaking. I'm Jessica Patterson from Roxbury, and I'm a former teacher at Chippewa, and I have taken care of children in various capacities for 37 years. I just wanted to say that I fully support giving the parents the choice to choose if they want to mask their kids. I think, as someone said earlier, that you will find that probably even the people who are more fearful and want to wear the mask probably will stop wearing them. That's what I've found in our business here. We've had many people visit from New York City and different places where mandates are fully more enforced, and they've come out here. And when we say it's your choice, everyone takes them off. And I think that you might find that. But I also, despite whatever data is there for or against them, you know, we can argue all of that all day long on both sides. And as the gentleman mentioned before, we could sit down and look at all of it together. But even with that, if you just look at our small community, and if you just look at our small schools, and if you see that doing all this masking and all the other precautions how has it affected in a positive way? Are there less cases of COVID? Are there a lot of sickness that's not happened? I would think that you wouldn't find that. And if you look at the damage that the masks do, I know personally a few children who are claustrophobic, who are on the autistic spectrum, that actually for wearing a mask for them is really scary, and it damages them. And it damages a lot of children physically and emotionally and mentally. And I think that we have to really look at that. There's been a lot more mental damage and physical damage with people not being, and children not being able to breathe, than I think there has been any kind of safety against getting COVID or preventing others from getting COVID. So I think that's what we really have to look at. And I strongly support our region in ending this mandate and allowing parents to choose, if they so choose, for their children to do that. And also for there to be no discrimination against any children for any vaccination status. I think that's very important to add, that the masks should be not mandated for any children at all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on a matter on tonight's agenda? I see no raised hands, and I see no one lighting up the chat feature saying, wait a minute, I didn't get my chance. I'd like to speak. Wait a minute, I see one person.
Sorry.
Kate Kubasek.
Hi, sorry, I got on pretty late and I apologize. The baby's been fussy. But I also just wanted to second the woman who just spoke in terms of support for leaving it up to the parents for masks for children. Just from our, we've all had our own experiences, and my husband and I both had severe cases, but I still think that for the kids, it's just, if we leave it up to the parents, it offers them such a better opportunity than making these things, still mandated. It does still kind of make the kids nervous. And especially now I'm watching them come home, like I send them a spare mask, but they're filthy and all of those things. So I just wanted to second what she had said, and I apologize for joining late.
Okay, thank you very much.
Were you from 8?
My kids go to Burnham.
Okay.
I'm in Bridgewater.
You're in Bridgewater, okay.
I am.
All right, is there anyone else? I don't see anyone else. I don't see any new hands up, and I don't see anyone on chat. So at this point, we will bring to a conclusion, after an hour and 3 minutes, the comment on agenda items section, and move on with the agenda. The next item is the consent agenda, on which are the meeting minutes of the Board of Education of January 10 of this year. Is there anyone who wishes to take that off the consent agenda and actually discuss it? I'm sorry, I've got to flip pages. All right, I don't see anyone raising that on the board, so those minutes are being adopted. We'll now move on to the updates on COVID-19.
Greg,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
this is Julie Stewart.
Yes,
Would I
Julie.
be able to add a brief agenda item?
Yes, if you would like to move to add something to the agenda, it requires that this is a regular meeting, so with a 2/3 vote, we can add something to the agenda.
Yeah, we need to officially appoint community members to the Agriscience Consulting Committee. And I'm prepared to present that to the board if that would be possible tonight.
Okay. Usually appointments, I would have preferred to have discussed that before the meeting.
If it's better for you, we can, Megan has something to say about that, maybe.
Greg, you had appointed Julie chair of this committee. So this is community members that have come together, working with Tim Armbuster with the Ag Advisory. So it's a little different than our board appointments.
All right, now I understand what you're saying, and I apologize, Julie, for not understanding what you plainly said, but I sort of went right past me. Sorry about that. I get that. Well, you're moving to add to the agenda an action on the appointment of community members to the Ag Science Board. Is there a second to add that to the agenda?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Alex. All those in favor, please signify by saying, actually, I think because it's a 2/3 vote, could we poll them? Danielle, could we poll them, please?
Sorry, I had to unmute.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
Can I ask Julie a question before we vote?
All right, go ahead. Well, actually, we're only adding it to the agenda, so this is really not debatable.
All right.
So if we add it to the agenda, then then we can discuss any issues on it, but it's not debatable to whether to add it to the agenda. So could you please, Daniel, I'm sorry, could you please take the roll?
Okie dokie, guys. So starting with Joe,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Peter. Peter, you're muted.
Yes.
And Mary
Yes.
and Chairperson Kava.
Yes. All right, so it's unanimous. It will be added to the agenda. I'll tell you what, Julie, is it possible we could, do you have an objection if we move that to with the other action items?
That's fine. I think Tim, as the chairperson of this community group, is on the call.
Oh,
So I
in
don't
that
know.
case, I'm happy to move it up.
It should be quick, I think.
All right, why don't we, Megan, do you object if we do it now?
I have no objections.
Does anyone else object if we do it now? Hearing no objections, let's take it up.
Okay, so Tim Armbruster, I apologize if I've pronounced that incorrectly, but he is the chairperson of this group. He lives in Roxbury. I understand he has children in the region, and I believe he's the manager of Toplands Farm. And he has sought members from each town to be on this consulting committee. His goal is to have a total of 9. And currently he has 8 applications, which he's sent to me. I can read you all their names. I think we're looking for one more person from Roxbury. All of the applicants have shown an interest. They all have a background in some sort of farming. I'm sure you'll recognize some of the names, but what he's looking for, apparently this is part of the procedure that they have to be officially endorsed by the Board of Education.
Okay. You want to read those names?
Yes.
Someone want to read those names?
I can read the names. And sorry if I get a couple mispronounced. I don't know everyone on this list. Christine Waydig from Washington, Howard Bronson from Roxbury, Jessica Granger from Roxbury, Mary Trowbridge from Bridgewater, Melissa Levine from Bridgewater, Michael Gora from Washington, Timothy Armbruster from Roxbury, and Tyson Averill from Washington.
Okay. Is there, before we put this up for a vote, Tim, do you have anything you want to add?
No, what we're looking for, we've been working on this for a little over a year. We do have a large group of people that are interested and that do attend our meetings. Technically, the membership is supposed to be appointed by the Board of Education from our region and then from each sending town as well, which I'm working on that. It takes a long time to get people to commit the time and to commit to become a voting member. We do have some members that will be like as an ex officio that can show up and give us advice, but won't be voting. So basically, after a few months, that's the list that I have so far. And like I said, I'm still trying to grab one person from Bridgewater to serve. As our bylaws state, a minimum of 2 from each town, but I felt that in our region, and just starting out, it's best to, get as much support as we can from the community to help guide the program. So that's all we're looking for is the appointment of these people so we can have voting members as per our bylaws and as per the state of Connecticut requirements.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. I know a number of the people on that list, and it's really a renowned list. There's a few people on there that might know a thing or two about agriculture. So, absolutely, great job in getting these people to serve. Many of whom have served in many capacities over the years, and we're blessed to have them as residents. I think that's wonderful. Is there a motion Megan, what specifically does the board appointment, or do we want the board to authorize me to send letters of appointment? How do you want to handle it?
At this point, the board needs to approve the membership.
Or
as
ratify
chair.
them?
And I believe that the letters themselves of appointment come directly from Tim.
Okay, that's fine. Then do we have a motion to ratify and approve the appointment of this slate of members of the committee?
I'll move.
And
Support.
moved by Alex. Is there a second? Seconded by Joe. Is there further discussion of this group of candidates? John?
Yeah, this is probably for Tim. I don't know if you are familiar with this issue, but we are experiencing offering the hours that the ag students have to commit to their basically their field. Are the people on this committee aware of the getting the students to fulfill their hours, or have you heard of such of this?
Yeah, so part of the agricultural education is a program called the Supervised Agricultural Experience Placement. And that's where the students go out and get a job in a field of agriculture or any of the areas of STEM that are covered by the agriculture program. And so the people that are on the board are very aware of it. Most of these people actually have been involved since way back and just technically not official members. But they are aware. Some of the ones that have their own business or a business connection are aware and are willing to help. I have a business out of Brookfield that actually already does have some of our students in there as employees. And so they actually talked to me about joining the board, but that obviously goes through the Board of Education from their town. So yes, our members are aware of that. Basically, our job as a advisory council, give me 1 second here. I don't want to mess anything up. We involve community members that help connect the programming that is done at the school to the business world and try to see what people in the industry are looking for out of our students in work and in education. So we don't have any legal authority over the programming or over the curriculum, but we just advise what we'd like to see the program do. And then it goes through the right channels, I guess. And then that's how, we can help build the program.
Okay.
Just a follow-up. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but we are currently paying students out of the budget to fulfill their committed hours on campus. So any off-campus jobs, or let's call them the hours that we could get, would, definitely reduce the amount of dollars taken out of the budget to pay the students to fulfill their.
Well, we hope that I would think we would hope, John, that we would get many opportunities for the students, both within the board and outside. That would be, I think, a very good thing. Okay, good. Is there any further comment on this matter? If that's the case, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 Give me a second. I have to switch to the other screen. I don't see anyone over there. Okay, all those opposed, please say nay. All those abstaining, please so say you're abstaining. Hearing no abstentions and no nay votes, it is unanimous. The chairman votes aye. That is approved. And Tim, get to writing those letters.
Thank you. I'll
Excellent.
make sure that they're forwarded to you.
That'd be wonderful. Okay, very good. Let's then move back to the agenda, and we are now on the update on COVID-19. I will turn this over to the superintendent.
All right, well, just to say spoiler alert, as we know, we just heard what the governor said just moments before we had this meeting. So there's not going to be any grand unveiling regarding what the governor has just shared about February 28th. So with that said, I do want to share what we have and what we're currently looking at for the outcome of some of the efforts that we have in place right now. So we are going to this is our update on COVID-19. So currently, from the beginning of school until today, you can see where our numbers went. We know we had the big jump that happened during the months of December and January, but I can also tell you that we have seen this arc. And whereas the week of December 13th, we had 7 cases of COVID. Week of the 20th, we went 24. Then the 27th, we had 39. Week of January 3rd, we had 38 cases. The 10th, we had 6. 17th, we had 14. 24th, we had 8. And last week, we had 1 case. So we are seeing the spikes that happened over the holidays starting to now steady out, and we are seeing healthier conditions. We also know that people have the conversation on what is reported. We have always done self-reporting within the schools. We have always done our own numbers. And so I can share with you that as far as the updates, we know that the governor's executive orders are set to expire on the 15th. I think that leaves us with some questions that we're waiting for further information on. As we saw today, there's the statement that the governor made about continuing masking until February 28th and then taking away that mandate. So we will see what's happening with the legislation. And at that point, we would be making an emergency board meeting decision on February 15th if a decision is needed to be made then. But right now, what part that we know and what we are excited about is to say that I know there's always a fear of something that's within the school, but we have really seen that it is not the super spreader. We see that our students continue to operate safely within our schools. So things that we continue to have, and we have offerings. We do have N95 masks that are available, and right now they're available for our staff members. The recommendation was wearing 2 masks, and we did remove the gaiters as face covering during the time of the spike. Again, we thank our towns for the preliminary test kits, and now we do see a steady stream of kits that come in. We have those kits available for our staff and students who are interested in receiving a COVID test kit, especially when we send someone home with potential symptoms. We do send them home with the test kits so that way they can have answers. And I think that the sooner we have that communication, the sooner we can take action. I think the sooner we know how to design the environments and to make those decisions with our eyes wide open. In the past, I've always sent the email notifications. And I also know that my email is becoming white noise. And I know that people are not, at some point, from what I'm told, they look for where the infection has happened and how many, and that's the end. And I think that there's also some value in us transitioning over to putting things on our website. We will continue to report daily on that website. Anyone who has a positive case, we will recognize staff members, we will put down students, we will continue to do the table that I present to the board. That'll now be readily available and changed in real time. With that said, anybody who is a direct contact, we will continue to notify directly. We did just recently actually today. So over the weekend, we notified our families that we were changing from the 10-day isolation period to the 5-day isolation period for those testing positive for COVID. This now aligns with the CDC. We held on a little longer because of the fact that we knew there was a high case rate. It was higher than we had seen in Region 12 in the past. With that said, we don't want to be so restrictive that we're actually deterring people from sharing positive COVID cases. So for us, moving down to the 5-day isolation and knowing that we now have manageable numbers that we can control the environment for that second half of the 5-day return. For us, education is always paramount, and we're not trying to create additional burdens for families or for students who need to access the learning. And we feel we can control and support students as we continue to make safe choices. Again, we continue to contact trace. It is the beauty of being in Region 12 is that we have the ability to give the information because of our small population size. We have controlled environments. And I think we are able to provide families with an awareness that they may have had an exposure, and this way, as they're making those decisions, they can make the ones that they feel are most appropriate for their families, given new variables that may be happening. And again, I already mentioned that the COVID notifications are on our website. And from there, you can also see any piece of information if you want to know how we do our counting, how we do our contact tracing. There are links within that document that also take families through everything that we have. For us, transparency and information, which is what we have prided ourselves on throughout this entire pandemic. We want to make certain people have access to the information that they need for their families and their decisions. And that is my update, and I will take any questions.
Questions, Jen?
Yeah, give me one sec. Am I unmuted? Okay. So I just wasn't sure, is this the appropriate time that we can discuss masks versus not masks and maybe address some of the issues that were talked about and try to keep it short and sweet? But because I feel it's appropriate to be at least address some of the comments that were made earlier. Is that okay, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to say that over the last 2 years, of course, I always feel like I need to do a special shout out to Megan, because I can't imagine the amount of pressure that she has had to deal with over the last 2 years with trying to keep every student safe. Aside from her family and her 2 girls at home, she has to worry about everybody else within Region 12, which is a daunting task that I can't even fathom. Not to mention also the fact that she has been yelled at probably on a pretty much daily basis on both sides of the coin. And not just yelled at, but I think at times has been treated horrifically. And I know that when I hear these stories, I'm embarrassed for anybody who calls to scream and yell at her when her job is to try to do the best that she can, even if it disagrees with what somebody else feels. So when I hear the comments tonight, I just have to preface by saying, ironically enough, I agree that masks should be gone. Not that it matters what my opinion is, but I'm just going to put it out there. The numbers are low. It is time to let everybody take their masks off. With that being said, I just have to say how disappointed I am by the comments tonight. There was a lot of arrogance, in my opinion, on both sides. Each opinion matters. Whether you're vaxxed or not vaxxed, whether you believe in masks or whether you don't. The fact is that we have lots of data and facts to support both sides of the coin. But to somehow think that your opinion and your facts are more important than others, to me, is a shame. And I really genuinely respect everybody's opinion, even if I don't agree, but I don't necessarily feel that I heard that tonight. And I was really disappointed. What I will also say is that I really want to thank Carl for his opinions, because he was so heartfelt and thoughtful. And I really appreciated that he was just talking from his heart about watching the kids getting on the bus and not being really sure if it is the right decision. None of us really know. No one likes their kids wearing masks. My daughter is in college and it's been horrific for her. So the experiences are real for every student, whether you're in kindergarten or whether you're in college. It's real and it sucks and nobody likes it. But sometimes you do what's for the greater good, even if you don't agree. Our intentions are never to mask your children and mute them and keep them under lock and key. That's never the intention. And I understand it feels personal, but it feels personal for me because I also have children and I'm a parent too. So I just want to remind all of our parents out there that we're all parents and we all deeply care, even if we don't all agree. And about masks, whether they work or not, I'm not here to debate it. I just know that when I went to go visit my mom, when she had a kidney transplant and she didn't have an immune system, I was required to wear a mask to visit her. So there's something to be said for masks doing something, even if it isn't curing it. So let's have a little sensitivity. Let's be thoughtful about everybody's perspectives. We can share our opinions, but we don't need to be arrogant about it. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pete, you have something? Question? Pete, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Not to be redundant in a way, but I don't know if you want to go there, but the board always has liability. Does it have liability that has a masking policy? It unmasks. Does that leave the board? I mean, anybody can sue you, but is there any greater liability for unmasking than there is for masking?
Pete, we're not prepared to have that conversation now. I haven't had a chance to talk to our attorney or anything like that. So I don't know what liability there is. So let's not go there. Any other questions for Megan? Okay, in that case, we'll move on the agenda.
Greg, I have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
I see Jim Brinton on the Zoom here. And I know it's all preliminary. I know it just came out of the governor's mouth this afternoon, but who would trump who? Would the town in lifting the mask mandate? Would the school systems fall under the town, or would it be two separate, vice versa? I'm not sure whose mandate would hold.
John, the Board of Education governs what goes on in the schools, not the towns. Notwithstanding the fact that 3 of the buildings belong to the towns, those buildings are operated by us and we have full control of them. So it's the Board of Education who will make any such decision, not the towns. And as far as the governor's masking mandate goes, or his indication that the mandate should be allowed to expire on the 28th of the month, first of all, I think there's going to have to be legislation to authorize him to keep it in effect through the 28th of the month. I think his authority ends on the 15th. So that requires legislative action. However, when the governor is saying that he's not going to continue the state mandate, that doesn't mean the Board of Education can't decide to impose one. The decision at that point, the board may decide not to impose one, in which case the removal of the mandate will stand, but the board could impose a mandate, a mask mandate if it chose to for some period of time. At least that's what we believe to be the case. We'll learn more about that in the days ahead. What I want to do as part of my report is just touch on a couple items related to this. And one of them is the Board of Education is not going to do something based on fear. The Board of Education, at least the way I see it, is not going to act based on what's popular or what's unpopular. The Board of Education is going to exercise its authority, which it has under the statutes and which its obligation to act in loco parentis. When we have children under our care in our buildings, we act as their parents. We make decisions as their parents would. Because that's the law of education, and that's what happens in the schools. And so what people need to remember is, regardless of which side you come down on in this great masking controversy, or at least this great masking issue, regardless of what side you come down on, the Board of Education is going to look at this and is going to receive as much information as it can and make a decision that is in the best interest of kids. And don't forget, just because you have an issue about your kids, whether they believe they need the mask or whether they don't want the mask, that's not a decision we make for just your child. We make that decision for everyone. And, you know, I heard people talk about going to concerts and attending things where nobody was masked. Well, there's a difference between a concert at Mohegan Sun and attending school in Region 12. And the difference is the children in Region 12, it's compulsory. They have no obligation. They have to go to school. I suppose they could choose to go to a private school, but good luck telling a private school that they're going to do anything else other than what their governance wants to do. And my guess is they're going to maintain mask mandates until they believe they're ineffective. But nevertheless, we have to make a decision recognizing that every child that's sitting in those seats is there because the law says that they must be there. And so it's different than when you make a voluntary choice to go somewhere. So I just want people to understand that the board is going to look at a lot of issues. We're going to seek the input and assistance of our director of health, of our directors of health. We're going to seek the input and assistance of the appropriate medical and other authorities. And we'll have to make a decision as to whether or not we think a mask mandate would be enforced. What I'm a little bit disappointed in the way this decision was handed down today. Well, I'm a little disappointed that that the ground was not prepared for this decision, so that boards of education could understand, and the superintendents, most importantly, superintendents could understand what the effect is of this, what it means, what the potential educational issues are. Are you somehow creating an issue for someone if you require them to wear a mask, or if you don't require everyone to wear a mask? I mean, there's a lot of legal questions and a lot of practical and operational questions. How far should people be distanced? What other protocols should we put in place if masking is no longer done? There's a lot of things that could have been done. And it would have been helpful to have had some time to have vetted these things. And it would have been helpful if this information could have come from the state, or at least some recommendations could have come from the state, instead of just simply saying that, well, we're going to punt it to you guys on boards of education. And by the way, we're not going to have a mask mandate in effect by the end of the month. So you've got basically 3 weeks to figure out, 3 weeks in the shortest month of the year, in the middle of the winter, to figure out what you're going to do about this. But we will take a considered discussion of it and a considered review of it and make a decision of which end we want to go. And the superintendent is going to make a decision on which end we're going to go. And I don't know, to the extent to which the board has any authority in that, we'll look at it and exercise it. To the extent to which we don't, and it's the superintendent's call and decision, the superintendent will make a decision. That's why we hired her. So that's really what I think we have to take into consideration when these decisions come in front of us. But the board isn't going to just jump. The board is going to make if the board has a decision to make, it will be made after due deliberation and based not on fear or popularity or unpopularity. It'll be based on our obligation to the children under our care and under our supervision. So that's where I think that is kind of a very disappointing result today, simply because of the lack of guidance and the lack of opportunity to have the time to approach them. And there is a million things we could discuss tonight about what the ramifications of this are. We won't. That will be taken up in another meeting. But in any event, we have that. And now I'm going to move on to Treasurer's report. John, if you've got anything, please regale us.
Yeah, I've got a few things. I'll try to keep them brief. It looks like we're going to blow past 10 o'clock. The current budget is tracking very well. There's a healthy under budget balance after encumbrances presently, barring any unforeseen unexpected expenses. We could end the fiscal year with a significant surplus. This is not my forecast. This is Nicole's forecast. So we might have some money left over. The 2022-23 budget is still being finalized and will be presented to the Facilities and Operations Committee on February 14th. So stay tuned. I don't know if I guess most of the board members have heard that there is a bill in the Connecticut Legislature, Senate Bill 948. And it has to do with the way technical schools, magnet schools, charter schools, VOAG, and open choice. And it's all linked to ECS funding. What it would do if it goes through, I mean, there's many pros and cons, but if it does pass, it would increase, it would take away the burden of the towns for our ag school, the sending towns, as far as tuitions. The state would front the entirety, and that amount is hasn't been disclosed, but we might benefit from a larger ag population from the sending towns, since all they would have to be responsible for would be transportation. The downside is that it's going to cost the state about $376 million in addition to the $2 billion, what is it? $3 billion, 25,156,000 that they already spent. So it's a long way from passage, but if it does, oh yeah, the other thing is, if it does pass, it's projected that we would actually lose, if our population stays the same, we would actually be losing about 11 to 14% of the entire revenue. Did I explain that correctly, Megan?
Pretty much. So there's two funding structures that they're looking at. And one falls along the ECS funding structure that schools get based on their per pupil expenditure. And the other one is just the state picks up what the other towns would have sent. And so when they did this study, I was able to meet with the legislators and other ASTE programs. And some programs like Housatonic, they lose 98% of their funding because all of their students are from their own towns versus us with sending towns. So depending on which structure is pursued is very important. But I think what the study brings light to is the discrepancy between what a student going to a magnet school gets versus a student who is going to our Agriscience. And we recognize that it doesn't make a lot of sense that here our students have experiential learning, there's equipment that's involved. What happens when you're providing an agricultural education, there's additional equipment and money needed for that education. And it doesn't seem like that's being honored. So there's a lot of discussion on balancing that. You know, they've tried to do funding this other way where money follows the child. And so really we're just watching as the state is trying to figure out how they're going to best support these programs for the long term, because they also don't want to restrict students who want to come to our program because some towns don't want to send as many students and put restrictions on that. So I think we
You're
tied it
correct.
together, right?
Okay. I hope, I don't know who's going to get to the legislatures and explain the differences, but it is a huge bill. I didn't even pick up any of that in reading the bill. So yeah, I hope it turns out in our.
Okay, is that your report, John? Okay, we have a long agenda, so I want
That's
to, I'd
about
like
it.
to go on. We could spend the whole night just talking about that bill and its potential ramifications. It's an important issue. Thank you for bringing it up. Megan, we'll go on to the superintendent's report, which I hope you can get through faster.
I'm going to say, like, I feel like I'm going to talk fast, but we're on it. Okay, so really quick, we are planning a senior trip for our seniors. I know we're bringing that back. It has a little bit of glamping to it, so that way we're trying to create a cancel-proof event for the spring. We want to thank, there was a private donation that came in for our sixth graders to have the opportunity to see the Hamilton on Broadway. So Broadway tickets will be for our students at the bargain basement price of $25 to see Hamilton on Broadway. So Thank you so much to the private donor. What an outstanding experience that's going to be. I also want to publicly thank Chris Dennis, who braved the COVID, blizzards, Harvard's rule changes, additional testing, logistical nightmares to make certain that our students were able to honor the United States delegation as we represented at the Model UN at Harvard, and it went off beautifully. So kudos to all of the additional planning. Our district maintenance garage has begun its construction. Additionally, it should be noted that Chipaw's HVAC system that was installed in the summer of 2020, we had one unit fail. So you will see a crane that is coming to replace that unit. We're not having something repaired. We're getting a brand new unit put in. Everything's under warranty, but if you see a crane out there, that is what is happening. I also want to share with the board that on February 1st, we opened up our tuition in applications. We start our window on that day. On the very first day, we had 42 applications to tuition in here in Region 12. And I think what a remarkable endorsement of our school district, our staff, and our communities. So people want to be here, and I continue to see applications streaming in. So again, that is something that we are incredibly proud of. As John shared about the ASTE, that is something that we're watching. And additionally, the HVAC Act is back in legislation. That is the one that we were concerned last year, because if that goes through, the Clean Air Act, to upgrade at each of the 3 elementary schools, that's where we've thrown around the number of 4.9 million was the quote that we had in order to bring it up to what the legislation has put out. So more to come, but we are watching that very closely. I have talked with both Representative Horn and Representative Harrison regarding the impact of some of these bills. I also want to thank the 60 community members and our board members who attended the community conversation that kicked off our strategic planning back on January 30th. Our long-range planning committee will take all of that information, and we're going to decipher and take it to our next steps. And a big, important, fun one is that our planetarium is now functioning. Greg Cava got the preview of coming attractions. There's a couple of things that we're going to do before we are showcase ready, but he saw that we were able to run the show. It looks beautiful. It is state of the art, and we're very excited. So if it's okay with you, Greg, I know in the interest of time, I'm just going to go through our personnel updates unless you feel I should stop and get any feedback regarding my last update.
No, I think you can go ahead and move on to that.
Okay, we have 4 appointments that we are very excited about. We were able to, Tom Corbett has been moved to our head custodian position over at Washington Primary School. Tom has been the custodian for second shift at Washington in the past. We welcome Jennifer Kramer as the educational assistant. She will also be working as our science lab support. And we welcome back Kenneth Martin. Kenneth is an alumni who we have hired to be a custodian at Washington Primary School. And I think when you meet him, you will see he is so excited, infectious. He cannot wait to come join and return back to our school system. So we love those moments where our graduating sons and daughters come back to our schools. And we hired Greg Spitzer for our driver of student transportation. Greg was a former bus driver for us, and now he's going to be working directly for the school district for supporting some of the transportation needs that we have. I do want to update, we have a couple of people who are leaving the region. Regina Rourke, who is the educational technology specialist at Booth and Burnham schools. Regina has been supporting technology in all aspects for these schools, and she really has done it all. She has transitioned the 2 schools to virtual learning, then brought us to hybrid learning, and then brought us back to in-person learning. And those things do not happen easily. So her support of the devices, making certain we were upgraded, making certain that she gave remote support. She has really done everything, and she does it all with a smile, and we are going to miss her. But right now we're going to enjoy every moment before she retires in July. We also have another retirement at the effect of this year, and that is Miss Joan Temple, who is our library media specialist at Chippewa. And Joan has introduced summer reads, she celebrated authors, and has highlighted lifelong learners by asking our staff to showcase their current reads. Joan has made certain that that love of reading and research is embedded in each and every child at Chippewa. If you have not seen the library's website, you are missing out on a world of opportunities. Joan has developed an impressive compilation of resources for our staff and students. She advocates for our libraries and resources, and she has made the Chippewa Library a warm and welcoming place, and we're going to miss her. Another retirement that I need to share is Pam Lucesi, who is an elementary teacher at Burnham School. Pam has been a true educator throughout her career in Region 12. She was a booth-free teacher who jumped at the opportunity to support the transition to multi-age learning at Burnham School. Her extra hours and desires to see students succeed has led to the success of the multi-age experience at Burnham. Pam has championed our math programs while never taking her eye off the importance of this classroom experience. So Pam does leave some big shoes to fill, and we wish her well, but I'm going to tell you, we still got her until July, so we're still on it. I also have to announce our retirement of Steve Crowley, who was our head custodian at Washington Primary. And anybody who ever has met Steve, you know his creative side. You know that he can talk to anyone, anything, and make you feel right at home. Steve is the first to check on you to see how your day was going, and also found ways to enhance our school environment. Steve always had that can-do attitude. And I will tell you, if you've ever seen the lights that were up at Washington Primary School, or those little touches that just made it a little more sparkly, that was Steve, and we're going to miss him. And I will tell you that I saved this last retirement announcement because it may choke me up a little, but it is one that we know that it has to be said. Kathy Quella, the principal at Burnham and Booth Schools, has announced her retirement effective July 1. So the last retirement, we know Kathy has led these two schools for 18 years. That is 2 PTOs, that is 2 budgets, that is 2 sets of staff members, that is 2 sets of parents, that is twice as many activities, and she never once complained. Kathy is driven by excellence, and that excellence has led to Booth Free School being named #1 elementary school in Connecticut. And she's also successfully transitioned the multi-age at Burnham, leading to increased enrollment and improved morale. We will hold off the celebrations of achievement as we close off the year, because that really is something that is like horrifies Kathy. Like this whole thing like horrifies her. But I have to tell you, we all need to celebrate what she's done, what she's brought to this district, because she really has set an exceptional standard that we all have to continue to live up to. So she will not coast into retirement because she won't even let us talk about it. And I know that she will continue to work until the reins are given to a new principal so her beloved schools can continue to thrive. So we wish all our retirees well, and we are going to enjoy those final months together. So with that, that concludes my update, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan. I know every one of the people leaving, and it is a devastating loss to the school. These are tremendous people. Kathy, what can I say? You have really made that a great school. Both of my children went to school there with you as their principal, and I am just, you deserve a retirement. You really do. But we are going to miss you something terribly, and with really good reason. Both of my kids also had Pam Lucesi, and so that will be something we'll miss at Booth. And obviously, I know I enjoy getting all the publications that Regina Rourke sends me, and I think she does a tremendous job in technology. Joan Temple, I've known for many years, a Roxbury resident who has been completely dedicated to our children at Chippewa, and it's just been a tremendous experience to see her work there. And Steve, what can you say about Steve? He's terrific. He always greets you. He's always got something good to say, something good to do, and he is one of those people that just cares tremendously about our schools and our kids. And he really is one of those people that you feel more secure that he's around and that he's got an eye on things and an eye on our kids and everything else. And we're just so fortunate to have people of this high caliber. And we wish them the best in their either retirement or moving on or wherever they're going. We wish them all the best. Okay, you know, I want to move on to committee reports because again, we're getting late. So I'll move on to curriculum and educational programming. Justin, do you have anything to report to us?
Nothing new to report since the last meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for, I believe, February 28th at 5:30. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Joe, at Advance.
I do not have a report. Our Board of Directors meeting that was scheduled for February 3rd was canceled, so I will have some new information when that's rescheduled and I attend that new one. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Finance and operations, Alex.
Yes, we had a meeting on the 24th, and we will be meeting again on a week from today. Just a couple of quick things. John went over the numbers. You all got summaries of the quarterly and monthly numbers. And to repeat what John said, they look very strong. I think we're in a very solid position. We discussed maybe buying some CDs last meeting, and we've ruled that out. The rates are just way too low. Nicole is looking into possibly opening a money market account with Iron Bank, which may give us a little bit better return on our money. Two other quick things. One, it came up, and I just want to dispel anybody thinking this is in the short term. There's talk about maybe at some point way down the road, the central office becoming a daycare center. That is still very premature, but if you've heard anything about it, it's not happening in the near future. We're working on the preliminary budget. We will have some numbers on the 14th. They won't be final numbers, but they will be somewhat harder numbers. And the last thing, and this really excited me. We got a Don Shells and Julie King brought up the idea of brag boards be put up at Chippewa. These would be updated every year, and they would highlight the achievements of our students. So anybody walking into the school there, they'll probably be on the right-hand side, and they'll have everything from academics to arts to athletics, and they'll just highlight everything about the kids. And I just think it's a great idea. And as I said, our next meeting is on the 14th, and that is it for me.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Alex. Just to follow up on the brag boards, I actually went out on a scouting mission with them to establish the location, and we're putting them exactly where we thought they would be. They are right there as you enter the school, right before the hallway that goes down to music and ag science and art. So that's the location is perfect for that. And I believe Megan pointed out to us that we left the board standing against the wall, and within less than an hour, there were people clustered around them looking at them, even though they were half on the floor. So that should tell you something. This is the right thing in the right place.
Can I just interject for 1 second, Greg? Because I just have to share what happened, because there are a bunch of 8th graders who were standing with their teacher, and they were pointing at the colleges that our students went to. And one of the students, you know, it's like that magic moment, who said, "I thought you had to go to private school to get into these colleges." That, my friends, is why we have the brag boards.
Well, it's a great idea, and it's a great thing. I'm 1000% behind it. Okay, labor negotiations. We have finished negotiating with 3 of our unions, and we do not have another negotiation until the fall, when we begin negotiation with the union representing our teachers. Strategic plan and long-range planning. Julie, do you have anything for us? I bet you do.
Very quickly to say thank you for everyone who participated last Sunday. And our meeting will be on the 14th. It's listed on our agenda here as 5, but we've pushed that up to 4:30 in hopes of being done by 6. So for anyone who'd like to celebrate on the 14th, they can do so. But anyone who would like to come to that meeting, we will be listening to the results of the community conversation. So it should be interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Good. We'll move on to new business and updates. The first item is a hiring plan for principal at Booth Free School and Burnham School. I'm Megan. I assume that's you.
That is me. So we will be sharing a flyer and getting that out to other towns, to other administrators. This is one in which we want to make certain that we get the right person to continue our schools in their pursuit of excellence. And so in this methodology that we're using, and we are going to be doing something different. In the past, when Kathy went in through her interview process, she had to interview at Booth, and then she had to interview at Burnham. And for us, we're going to do one united search. So we will be putting out the advertisement within the next week or two. And then application deadline is March 19th. We will do first rounds of interviews the last week of March. Second round will be in April. And all of that is with the anticipation that we will do a board appointment in May, so that way we can really get them started on July 1. And hopefully there's a little bit of time that we can help transition, so that way Kathy can make certain that there is a smooth transition of her schools. So it is one that in the past, and we continue to invite, we will have opportunities that board members would like to be part of interview 1 or interview 2. You are part of this community and your voices are important. So again, we won't be doing separate for the 2 schools. It will be one united interview process. So hopefully we find success in that.
Okay,
Questions?
very good. Let's move on to the next item, which is State of Diversity Elementary School Efforts. Emily Judd and Kathy Kalala.
Good evening, everyone. So I think Kathy and I are going to be sharing our screen because we do a presentation for you. We hope that you enjoy and take away some important things that we're really proud of.
I think we're on. Does everybody hear me? Okay. Our presentation is called Building Unity. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about diversity. Diversity is one of those big idea words that must be woven into the work of an educator. As an elementary team, we are committed to planning instructional opportunities through the lens of diversity, acceptance, empathy, and respect. There are many reasons to cultivate diversity in the classroom. Diversity helps appreciate and celebrate individuality, promotes a climate of inclusion, and creates a sense of belonging and respect for others. It also broadens experiences that foster acceptance for others within the larger context of the community.
So bringing diversity into action in the classroom requires intention on the part of every educator. This can be done through building positive school and classroom cultures, through purposeful instruction, celebrations of diversity, and building community partnerships. Developing.
Sorry, go ahead.
So developing a positive school climate is foundational to promoting a culture of diversity and inclusion. At each elementary school, we are committed to fostering a sense of belonging for all students and their families. Each year, we strategically plan efforts to teach and reinforce social skills that promote empathy, respect, and understanding for one another, and the development of positive character traits. We do this through school themes, developing expectations, promoting active listening and participation, and including partner and group work structures.
Each school develops a theme to capture important values and character traits that support each school's mission. For example, at Burnham School, the theme Seasons of Our Best Selves was created to emphasize kindness, gratitude, caring for our community, and community outreach. At Booth Free School, the theme of unity highlights a new concept each month, like safety, being an upstander, good character, inclusion, environment, and equity. At Washington Primary, the theme of tails, represented by animals, is used to teach trustworthiness, attitude of gratitude, includer, learner and leader, and self-regulation. These themes and corresponding concepts provide students with firsthand experiences that deepen the understanding of self and others and relationships.
Each year, students generate hopes and dreams and establish classroom rules. This allows students and teachers to partner together and help each individual achieve his or her personal best. Here are two examples of hopes and dreams bulletin boards and expectations. This supports diversity as it sets the stage for the way in which students will interact with one another and respectfully learn together. It also provides each student with an opportunity to express themselves through goal setting and to connect with others who may have similar goals.
At the elementary level, it is important to teach effective communication skills that help students engage in conversations that support respectful exchange of ideas. Active listening and adding onto ideas is modeled and practiced to ensure that students listen for understanding and share ideas for the common good of the group. This supports the skills for successful social interactions and grows respect for different points of view. Students practice these communication skills during partner work, small group, and whole group structures. When students experience different points of view, their minds open up to new perspectives.
Teachers have great influence on students. Purposeful instruction in both academics and social learning creates an environment where students can grow as leaders and learners. With the use of student choice and collaborative problem solving, students are able to learn knowledge and skills while learning how to engage in the work, to question, and to learn from self and others. Some examples where diversity takes the forefront is with literature studies and embracing diversities through the arts. Each school has a variety of resources for students that provide different facets of diversity from cultural, disabilities, economic, and other aspects.
The top two pictures illustrate an example of how teachers develop leadership skills by teaching students what it looks like and sounds like to be a leader of their own learning. To the right are examples of resources that are available to promote the understanding of diversity. They show the varied books available in our library, both in print and digitally. Students also engage in learning activities. For example, each grade does a book study using a mentor text that has a unique angle on diversity. Additionally, teachers integrate materials that reflect various individuals in history, science, sports, and more to apply research skills, language arts skills, speaking and listening skills, and capture the personal interest of students. In the lower corner, you have a group of students integrating technology and coding to solve problems. In the middle is a picture of a Black History Month essay project completed in one of the upper grade classrooms. All classrooms integrate opportunities for all students to work collaboratively, to generate their own questions, to synthesize information, and to apply problem-solving strategies. Growing leaders who are open to other ideas and ideas of the world, and who are willing to collaborate with respect towards a common goal is the common thread that weaves people together with greater understanding.
Here are some 4th and 5th grade student work examples created during art classes highlighting diversity. The project was inspired by the Embracing Our Differences organization initiative, which promotes expression through artwork, artist statements, and personal quotes. We are teaching our students that everyone is valued and supported. Within the school community, we help students become involved and feel a strong sense of belonging through jobs and clubs. It is also important for our students to be seen as active members of their community, whether it be by sharing their talents or helping with community events. The goal of community building is to build connections and help students see that their contributions make a difference now and have the potential to impact the world around them.
We promote student leadership opportunities through student council and building responsibilities with school-wide jobs such as raising the flag. Other pictures show our school's efforts to collect items that were contributed to the local food banks. We have a couple of pictures that show important causes that our students are eager to support, like Project Night that uses contributions to create bedtime backpacks for children in need, and PJ Day for kids to support children battling cancer.
Here are pictures of students making wreaths, cards, and decorating Christmas trees for the senior citizens. Our chorus groups also participated in local holiday celebrations and winter sing-alongs. All of these experiences help our students see that they have influence and can take action to help others, which reinforces empathy and looking beyond themselves.
Celebrating differences publicly is another aspect of bringing diversity to the forefront. We do this by holding frequent school-wide meetings where elements of the school's themes are explored and where students can share their learning, successes, and varied points of view. For example, a class may use the green screen to create an iMovie to show scenarios of how to be trustworthy or to show a positive attitude, or a class may share kind messages that were passed to others and why it is important to spread kindness. The student picture shows a still view of a skit showing how to accept a non-preferred present graciously. We also hold special events like Unity Day that celebrates kindness, acceptance, and inclusion as captured in the picture above.
Cultures around the world is another opportunity for students to explore other cultures, customs, and traditional activities. Our schools studied countries such as Brazil, Ecuador, Guatemala, India, Israel, Poland, and South Africa. We have a short video to share with you, and we'll give you also a glimpse of what kids think about embracing diversity means as they engage in text, the arts, and other learning experiences. And I think, Ben, you're going to help us out by sharing that video, please.
Embracing differences means to me that we can be more open and accept others, even if they are a little different or look different than us. Embracing differences can also allow you to make new friends and meet new people. You can learn more stuff about them too.
At school, it's very important because all kids in the school, they want to be friends with each other, and you don't want any bullies or anything, so you want to spread your kindness.
Being different is what makes people unique, and that is a great thing. As you can see, being different is what makes each of us who we are. What this book taught me about diversity is that everybody should be treated equally. To me on this side, and then I'm going to draw a bunch of other people on this side to show that everyone is equal. I made a hand holding peace and love. Kindness is free to give, but priceless to receive.
The moon and sun being friends even though they're different.
This guy's in a wheelchair. This guy has a prosthetic arm, and they all, if you see, they all have a heart with kindness, all making them stay together.
Only some have the power of kindness. Do you have that power?
No matter if you have black skin or white skin, doesn't matter because we're all the same inside and we can all be friends.
Diversity means differences, all differences. For example, like skin tone, eye color, hair color, handicaps.
If you don't embrace diversity, the world will be so plain. All the animals will be the same. There'll be no different kinds of leaves, trees, nothing like that.
The moral of this book is really don't judge a book by its cover.
Kids and the consonant kids had nobody to play with but other consonants. They had no vowels to make the wee, wee, wee sound. If I were in his time, I would probably join him for standing up for people because it's not the right thing to just judge someone by how they look.
I embrace diversity by not judging people by how they walk or talk or how they look or their color of their skin. I look at what's on the inside.
So I just want to wrap up by saying an atmosphere in the classroom that teaches children about diversity and inclusion is one that teaches them to interact in a society where every individual is unique. So we hope you enjoyed our presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for having us.
John, do you have a question? I see your hands up.
It's more of a comment. When I attended the forum, the last Sunday's forum with the groups concerning the what was it, the Partnership for Education and Leadership. The theme throughout my group was diversity and inclusion. And yeah, it was on everyone's mind. So thank you. Thanks for your presentation this evening.
Okay, excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, so I guess we're going to move on to action items now. We have one action item on the agenda to consider and, if appropriate, allow Chippewa students to participate in the co-op football opportunity with Nonawag, Wamogo, and Wolcott Tech. Okay.
So I put in the executive session folder, the information with the MOU that another district has that we would be also embarking on. I did not put that in the public folder because it's another town's legal document, but I certainly wanted the board to see what the obligations would be for payment. Greg did a wonderful job of then putting together. So you should all have the spreadsheet in front of you that breaks down what the cost would be for 10 students, for 7 students, and for 5 students. There are some that are non-negotiables, like the $2,000 for insurance that it would cost and the $350 per player. But there are other things as far as transportation that are optional considerations. it is one that, as we know, and as our conversation went, this is not about Chippewa creating a football team. This is about Chippewa participating in another team's platform. So this would be playing with Wolcott Tech, Nanawag, and Region 6. I can tell you, for me, this has been a conversation that Matt Parachi and I have gone back and forth on. And one of the things that I have to say is I truly respect his position, because Matt continues to look for building teams and what does this look like for Chippewa, and making certain that we are looking at what is the future. I come from it at a different perspective, because for me, when I look at, and it's that question of what is your belief system? And my belief system is it's about opportunities. This is not about creating new opportunities. It's taking advantage of opportunities that we have before us. And I think whenever we've looked at what we've been able to provide for a small school, we've always sought opportunities. And so that's why when bringing this up and having this conversation and putting it before the board, it is something that I promote. However, it is a board decision. And so this time I welcome the motion, hearing where it's going to go and the conversation that'll ensue. So at this time, Greg, I know that there is a motion that needs to be put forth on the table.
Okay, do I have a motion to allow Chippewa students to participate in the co-op football opportunity with Nanawag, Wamogo, and Wolcott Tech? Just to put this on the floor. Okay, it's been moved. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Now we can discuss it.
I have a question, Greg.
Yeah.
When we talked about this a couple weeks ago, you said the uniforms were not going to be our expense. Are they going to be at our expense?
Well, I was mistaken about that. Apparently, we do provide uniforms for the teams that our kids are on. Megan, maybe you can you can enlighten us on that, exactly what our policy has been.
That is where it is an option if we're going to provide that for the students. So again, just that cost factor. The things that are non-negotiable are the insurance and that cost per player. Other than that, it's pulling all of the other numbers together. It's not a huge expense if this was something that we were going to provide their equipment for them, but it is one that's one of the factors that are out there.
Megan, do you want to put that spreadsheet on the?
Sure. I think I actually even have it pulled up. Sure.
Yeah, put that on the screen. Actually, I don't want to take credit for the spreadsheet. Nicole put the spreadsheet together. I just tweaked it a little bit to make it clearer. What you see there is that, and this is the 10-player scenario. So this would be a maximal, what we believe to be more than likely far more players than would normally be participating in it. But if you do that, you can see that the player cost, you can see the uniform cost, the insurance. At the end of the day, you can see that this is without transportation, it's about 11,000. With transportation, it adds another 20. You get to 31,004. And what you see is that this is less than the saving that we would have with cost. It would actually be if we kept 3 ag science out of our district ag science people in the program, it would more than pay for it. Similarly, you could do it with I have different scenarios where you could see precisely how many students it takes before it's entirely paid for by what this has the ability to do. So it really is not a cost issue. This is not a something that's going to be very expensive. It's certainly something that every indication we have is that it will probably result in our keeping several people we otherwise would lose to another school, because football is very important to them in addition to the ag science program. And so I think that the idea of this was to look at a maximal situation with 10. If you shift it down to 5, you can see the other end of the spectrum. And from what I understand, it's, the transportation costs what it costs, no matter how many kids you have in the program. And so the numbers are fairly similar from instead of 32,000, it ends up being 26 or 27 almost. So as you can see, the costs don't vary that much with the number of players until you get either a lot of players that bump that up, but it still doesn't bump it up very much because the big cost is transportation. So that really is what you've got there. So it certainly cost, if you're concerned about cost should not be a concern. Because there is a great likelihood it will keep kids in the district that otherwise wouldn't be here.
So just to point out, it's not the same exact revenue stream. So as we know, Agriscience doesn't necessarily just come into our general budget, but it is to show, and I think Greg did a great job of illustrating that when students choose not to come to Chapag, it also means that those revenues do not come to support some of our other programs that happen with the schools. So I just wanted to make certain people recognize revenue streams, and we don't cross general budget with our Agriscience, but I think it does go to say, but our students that are there and our enrollment and what that does, it is a benefactor.
John, you have a question?
Just a comment. I think I stated this at the last meeting. There is the factor of Sherman students who choose to go to New Fairfield because they can play football in New Fairfield. I don't know how many students we can attract, but that certainly will bring more revenue than the ag tuitions do. If
That's
we can
correct, John.
attract more Sherman boys, obviously. So, and yeah, I just wanted to add, since I'm glad to hear that the number, the $31,000 number, is not an issue, because this board, many members on this board have voted for things like a dietitian, a cafeteria consultant, human relations, human resources staff, job descriptions, the $45,000 we spent for the partnership for educational leadership, the design for the region's logo. All this is dollars that go to adults. It's time to do more things for our students. I'm sorry. So I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, Jen?
So just because I just want to be clear. So the minimum that we would pay for 5 students is 11,000. Is that right?
No,
I'm sorry, 6,500.
Yeah, 6,500. That's the minimum you would pay if
The
you gave no
minimum.
transportation.
For no transportation, and then the most we would pay minimum for 10 students is 11,000.
That's right. That's just for the ones you have to pay, the requirements.
So I guess the couple of questions that I have are, so I didn't realize we had additional funds that we could utilize for sports. So not just football, right? We could be, if we're tapping into the ag students to be able to participate in sports, then wouldn't we want to be able to be mindful of that for the other programs as well? Whether it be swim, basketball, soccer, correct?
I'm not sure I understand what you're
Well,
asking.
But this is what I'm gonna say, the funding streams, and that's what I wanted to share is.
Right,
they
no,
don't
I
go one
understand,
into the other.
but I'm just saying that it could be not just for football,
Mhm.
correct? It could be for all the sports.
Absolutely.
Correct. Okay, so that's my point. So I guess for me, the question is that, and I agree with John. There are lots of us who, and I got to tell you, this one hurts because I usually am always a yes when it comes to the students. But when I see that when we're comparing numbers to the sports programs, and we're doing this for football, but we can't do this for additional, for the sports that we have. So we can't invest, so to speak, in a little extra in the existing sports that we have. If we're finding funds, for example, $6,500, right? So if we were to say minimum that we would invest in football, minimum $6,500. Am I not making
I think you're comparing apples to oranges, though.
I
think
am.
because what we're not doing is we're not suggesting, number one, we're not suggesting that this is something we want to do because of tuition money coming in. What I'm saying is that because of the unique situation with students coming in tuition from Sherman and students coming in tuition from 7 other ag science schools, that we have tuition streams that if children decide to come to Region 12 that wouldn't come here because we offer football, or if we offered a different sport.
Right.
It really doesn't matter. But the point is if students came here, then it creates revenue. It doesn't come directly to us, but it offsets money that we would otherwise charge in the budget. I'm not saying we do this for the money. I'm saying that
I know we're not doing that. I understand.
What I'm trying to no, but the whole purpose of the funds is if one were concerned about whether or not this program is direct out of pocket or whether there has some ability for it to result in our being able to cover these costs in a different way, the answer is it does. But in other words, money, it's not a question of expense. And I don't think no matter what program we have for kids, ought to be a question of expense.
Let me just finish my point.
Yeah.
So my point is that if we're investing, and listen, I'm all for investing, but if we can find funds, regardless, to invest in the existing sports programs that we have, for example, having a pool that we spend a lot of money for with a swim team, how can we invest in the swim team that's already there to make sure that that swim team stays, right? Because it's a concern that for me, we have numbers that are dwindling on our swim team. So how do we take our existing programs and make them better? Because that is a huge concern.
But that's not the topic. You're off topic. You're off topic because what the topic is, the point of this.
No.
What the point of this was to see whether or not this was something that was revenue, was going to what the cost would be and what the impact would be.
And what I'm saying, Greg, is that I'd like us to see us invest in our existing programs first. That's what I'm saying. So before we add.
Well, okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's a good position.
So my point is that we have existing programs that are getting smaller. And so what I would like to see is us make sure that what we have is sustainable long-term, because that is a concern.
Well, but there's two arguments there, though, Ben. If our existing programs are getting smaller, then maybe it's time to replace them with different programs that attract more people, because the school is not getting smaller. We're getting larger.
But Greg,
okay, our enrollment is getting larger, not smaller. So if programs, I agree, we may need, if we're not investing enough in them, you make a good point. And that's something we should discuss at budget time as to whether we're investing enough.
No.
We're discussing.
Can I speak?
Well, can I just finish my?
Let's let Jen finish. I interrupted her already.
I'm trying to explain to Jen why her logic is wrong.
Okay, go ahead, Alex. Explain why my logic is wrong.
If you want to get more money for the swim team or for the pool, that would require us to get more outside students to come to swim.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
Or getting more students that are within our school to actually participate.
No, because those kids don't bring in extra money. They're already here.
I'm not even saying that I'm saying within our budget, we need to start looking at investing in our existing programs. I don't care where you get the money from.
Well, I think
that's a valid point.
I think it's a valid point. It's a point we should take up at budget time. Right. And I would be prepared to come with
tonight, Greg.
But no, tonight's question is not the existing programs. It's whether we're going to allow football. And my point being, you're making an assumption. You're making an assumption that we're having programs that are suffering for lack of investment. No, and I don't think you've made that case.
My point is that I want to make sure that the soccer team that we have is strong. I want to make sure that the swim team that we have is strong. I want to make sure that the softball team and all the teams that we are existing are going to sustain themselves. I'm not in support of having a football team yet, when I want to make sure that the teams that we have are thriving. That's my point.
Well,
done.
But if they're not thriving, you have to ask the question why. And if the question is
Then
because
why are
we're
we
not
adding on
investing-
another sport if we can't make sure that the teams that we have are sustaining themselves?
Well, what you're assuming is it's a zero-sum game. You're assuming that because we offer football, people will leave the existing programs to do football. And the question is, I don't know if that's the case.
Then what we need to do is make sure that the teams that we have are strong first before we start adding on. And I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't part of the wrestling decision. I wasn't part of hockey. So I can't say, nobody can be upset with me saying I voted them in. I had nothing to do with that. What I am saying is I'm concerned about the existing programs that we have and strengthening them before we add on. That is my bottom line. Done.
Well, I don't know. The question you have to ask yourself is the person, are the programs we have suffering from lack of commitment, or are they suffering because in a school this small,
Yes.
you can have people that lose interest in a particular area.
And if you were to ask Matt, he would tell you that there are certain sports that are dwindling. So
Well,
that
may be true.
It is
may be true. Pete, you're muted.
Ready?
Yeah, there you are.
How do we get the students home who don't live in our district that want to participate in these sports? How you get them back to Danbury, Fairfield, wherever they're coming from? How do you get them back?
The parents have to make a commitment to get the students back.
Well, I think we need to know that because it would be a big detriment. I think, first of all, it would cause you to lose participation because you're assuming 10, you made this up based on 10 students, if I remember correctly. So
no, Pete, there's no assumption there'll be 10 students. There might be 5, there might be 3, there might be 8, there might be 7. We don't know. We don't know until we put it out there.
Part of the agreement too, right? Are
Well,
we voting on a certain number?
do small amount of students cover your operating costs for the busing, for instance? The buses pick them up at our school and take them to whatever sporting program is being held in whatever school district. And although the superintendent mentions it here, so they have to be brought there and then brought back to us, correct? Megan?
They don't necessarily, it depends. If a parent wants to drop off their child, they don't have to come back to Chippewa after picking up their child at practice at Nonawak. That's
Yeah,
about
but
the only-
I'm presuming that most parents aren't going to be involved in picking up I don't think we can depend on parents picking up the kids. I think we have to depend on the fact that we're planning this, that one, we take them to where you mentioned here to practice, then we pick them up and bring them back to school. And then how do they get home? Because right now they get home because we have a bus that takes them back, correct? If the kids come from Danbury, they come on a bus.
Pete,
What?
they go home the same way kids that participate in theater go home. If you're from Danbury and you participate in theater and you're here to a rehearsal until midnight or 1 a.m, you're getting a ride home from your parents, or you're not getting home. And so that already happens in programs. We've done it that way for years, and there's never been a problem. If your child is going to be interested in something like that enough to participate, you're going to make transportation arrangements in order to facilitate it. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
Transportation should not be an issue. Dollars should not be an issue. The only question is whether it's a program we want to offer to students.
Okay, then my next question is, since we have such a small program because of the small amount of students, when we start adding new program, sporting events, whatever, does it start taking away from what we have and reducing the sport itself that we now have?
Well, it depends, Pete. I suppose it depends on whether, whether the person who's going to play football
Right.
is somebody that would have that if they hadn't had the option of football, they would have joined the swim team, or they would have joined the soccer the soccer team, or they would have joined, or they would have been on the hockey cooperative team. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we don't know we do know that there are children who are interested in this sport singularly and are not interested in necessarily in other sports. So we know there's some of those. We don't know whether people will leave one of our existing teams to go to this team. But the point is, when we are deciding whether or not to offer a new AP course, we don't say, well, gee, if we offer this AP course, is it going to cause people to leave other AP courses? Well, of course it is, because you've only got so many hours in the day. Every time you offer a course, you run the risk that people are going to leave a different course in order to take that course. It's the nature of our business. Okay. And I think that if, the question is, do we want to make more offerings? In AP, we have said the more the better. But in sports, we're saying, well, maybe that's not the case. Maybe we don't want to do this because we might hurt existing teams. Well, maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I don't know.
Let me ask another question. Are you willing to agree to the fact that if these programs that you want to institute don't work, or they're not bringing in enough students to make it viable fiscally, are you willing to agree that we'd be willing to eliminate the program, even though we started it, but it isn't succeeding? What is the barometer? What is the barometer for success for what you want to do?
I think that well, Megan, you were going to say something. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's quite okay. I'm going to tell you this for me, this isn't about budget. This is about providing opportunities for students. And I think the more opportunities that we can house, given the smallness of our school, I think it does make us more attractive to people who are out there. So the question is, what happens if it doesn't happen? Then we don't send anybody to play football. Like it's really the MOU of, we are providing an opportunity. What we add into the opportunity becomes our choice. But for me, this is about the opportunity, not about dollars we can make.
Is there a minimum? But is there a minimum if only one person signs up for a sport that we don't have, that you want to bust somebody to? Is there a number that makes it viable to take them to this other sport?
This is where a bus is not a guarantee. So it becomes that conversation of if this is what we want to provide or not. That's why when we put it, it's not mandatory that we offer it, but it goes to also say, if we have a certain amount of students and we say, then once we get to this, we'll provide a bus, that's the opportunity. Those are conversations that we can have, but for one student, no, I wouldn't see that we're just going to provide a bus for that.
So you're going to explain somehow to parents who will sign up for the ag programs that we have sports, we have a sporting program, and we have this additional sporting program, and you're going to explain to them all of these particulars, and that somehow we have to explain to them, if their son is the only son in that particular sport, that the possibility exists that we're not going to bus one kid to one sport.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a formula that you can hand to people and say, this is how we're functioning in that program?
Well, we have to agree on it, whether or not that is something that I would put together, but I can tell you, I've been working with Wamogo. We've also talked about if we want to share a bus, if that's ever consideration. But in the conversations of what does this look like, how many ag kids are doing it, and Matt ran the numbers. The fact of the matter is, not all ag kids can handle the demands of both the SAEs and football. Again, for me, this becomes about opportunities, and it's opportunities that students that have been our students who live here in our 3 towns would like to explore as well. So
we're offering people an opportunity.
Yes.
Who desire to have this opportunity, and we're willing to pay for it. And there's no guarantee that it'll continue. We're experimenting. This is like an experiment.
Yep.
Right? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we run courses and we see if nobody enrolls, we decide whether or not we're going to run those courses again in the future.
Okay.
Okay. Joe, you had a question.
Matt, you're still on here?
Yep, I'm here.
In the past, we always had a hockey team. Now, when we entered a co-op, it was because the hockey team dissipated, and then that was the only other option.
So I came here, I became the athletic director in '93, and they had recently, and I can't tell you how many years ahead of that, they had recently gone from a Chippewa only hockey team. So it started out, I mean, the hockey team's been around 40 something years, and it was Chippewa only. And then the interest waned, and someone before my time got them involved in the co-op. So that's how that happened.
Yeah, because I was a student there and we had our own hockey team
Yep.
at that time, and that was, in the 80s, but we always offered hockey. So was there a time that there wasn't hockey offered?
I don't think that hockey was, my understanding, of course, that predates me. I grew up in Massachusetts. But I don't think when the school opened in '72, I think is the year, I don't think they had hockey. I think hockey was started sometime in the 80s, but it was definitely strictly an all Chippewa team. And as the numbers dropped, someone prior to me made the decision to go into the co-op, and we have kept it going. It's been going since before 1993.
Right.
Okay.
So it's nothing new.
Correct.
Nope.
That's,
Right.
yeah, it's nothing new we've newly done. And it's always been Chippewa's team.
So football would be brand new. That's obvious. Megan, do you have a number of these students that want to play and attend?
We know of a possibility of 5.
5?
5.
Okay.
And I can tell you, separate than the 5, 3 students who interviewed for AG this year expressed football interest. That's separate than what we have. So this is one in which, again, not trying to separate, but that's the numbers that right now we're looking at.
Okay. Julie?
Well, it seems as if really the only major issue here is the competition with our existing sports, and especially soccer. And I imagine of these 5 students, probably, do any of them play soccer currently, Megan?
I don't know of any soccer players that have an interest in football right now. No.
So I just think that the impact on our existing program, given that within the region, we have all these soccer feeder programs, which I know are flourishing, and that with football players, they start in these Pop Warner leagues when they're very young. And I just don't see that it would be that harmful to existing programs to allow it with only a handful of students having an interest. And those that do have an interest, like the young man who came on the meeting tonight, I mean, I just don't see the harm to it. And it's something they're very, very passionate about and want to do. And I think it would open the door to some new students from Sherman and in the Ag STEM program. So I will vote in favor of it. Thanks.
Okay, Angela's next. You're muted, Angela.
But just first thing I want to point out is I've been watching the comments from some of our parents who, most of them spoke concerning the vaccination. They did not speak, but they're on the comment section, so I assume it's public. So Maureen Bilak, Cassini, I'm sorry, I don't know some of the first names, Granger, Deirdre Ryder, and Tornicio, and they are all posting positive comments about having a football team, that they feel we should have a football team. I think that there's plenty of support for the soccer team. We have 42 new families who are tuitioning in. Some of those are high schoolers. Probably some of them will play soccer. I had my boys who are freshmen, 8th grade, and a senior poll. My senior plays soccer, poll their friends. And there was not a taker from the soccer team for football. I think typically you're a soccer player or you're a football player. I don't see a whole lot of cross transition there. I checked with 2 school systems, Brookfield and Pomperog. They do not charge the kids for the uniforms. The kids borrow the uniform at the end of the season. The kid turns back in their uniform. And that includes the helmet. The only thing the kids are responsible for are the cleats. And you're responsible obviously for soccer cleats or track cleats or whatever. And I realize I'm just skipping around a little bit. When Megan mentioned, I think it was Megan or Greg, the brag board. And Pete, you mentioned last time that, you know, the kids that play for us, if we had a football team, you know, they're probably not going to Georgia or Alabama. They might not be, but the quarterback for Taft just signed to go to Dartmouth. The quarterback for Brookfield a few years ago became the quarterback at Harvard. And my niece, who played softball out of Newtown, went to Harvard, and she will be the first one to tell you, I went to Harvard on my GPA and my batting average. She was not top 10. She's a smart girl. She's in Boston College Law School, but it's a combination. It's not, you know, you're not probably taking a kid from Chippewa, sending him to a co-op and sending him to Alabama. That's probably not happening, but it just gives them more on their resume. They're more diverse. If they can get to an Ivy for playing football, I am absolutely all for it, because that makes Chippewa look all the better. A few years ago, I believe we have 4 kids who wrestle now. They get a ride down to Nonawag. They're responsible for own transportation. We don't have a bus, and their moms pick them up. That's the cost of doing business. These parents will know that going in, and they'll ride share or they'll carpool, or they will take their kid to and from. It's what we all do as parents. You know, I think we're here for our kids. Now, clearly, we're not taking away from swimming, because swimming's a winter sport. So, you know, we don't have to worry about taking away when we talk about taking away from other sports. If you want to swim, you'll swim in the winter. You'll play football in the fall. You might have some crossover. It doesn't matter. I think we have to listen to our kids and see what they want to do. If we had every kid, if suddenly nobody took French because all the kids wanted to take German, we're not going to keep French. We're going to transition into German. I truly think we're talking about 5 schools. We have lost 1 kid who was not a freshman this year at Chippewa. He went back to New Milford. He was a tuitioning in student because we did not have football. I heard Dave Hendy talking about the girls' soccer team is losing players. That's certainly not because of the introduction of a new sport, because we haven't introduced a new girls' sport as far as I know. And I will tell you, and again, I'm not using anybody's name without their permission, we lost a girl to Immaculate, who is an all WC, all SWC soccer player, all state player, all SWC and all state indoor track runner, went to Immaculate because her brothers went to Immaculate because we didn't have football. So we have lost students. You might not think we would lose a girls soccer player, but we did. So I think that, you know, soccer will be fine. And I agree with Pete. It's kind of an experiment, but let our kids do it. Let them try it. You're talking about 5 or 10 kids. It's not going to destroy the soccer program, and you might bring more kids in. And I believe that the gentleman who spoke last time, Todd, whose son TJ is currently a 6th grader, he flat out said, I'm buying in Sherman. And I'm either sending my kid to Chippewa or I'm sending my kid to New Fairfield. It all depends on if you have a football team. So I say, listen to our parents, listen to our kids, give our kids this opportunity.
Okay. I think Mary's next, and then Justin, and then Alex.
I happened to be on the board when we decided to tuition in students from Sherman. We told them what we have, and we made no promises about changing anything to accommodate them. I was not on the board when we put Agriscience into play. And I don't think we made any promises that we should change Chippewa to accommodate students for the Agriscience program. I spoke to many community members, taxpayers, former students, and parents from Washington. All of them agreed, no football. Chupag Sports have feeder programs and camps, and they teach the children how to play sports correctly and how to do it safely. I have a problem with the fact that our athletic director and us, we have no control over who the coach is going to be. We have no idea if the students have been given a program that shows them how to play correctly and safely. But we have no idea who the coach will be. I have a real problem with that. And then the next thing is, what next? What do we get asked for next? Do we get asked for, well, I played karate. I did karate for years and I love it. And you know, there's 3 other people that want to do it. You have to have karate for us. And somebody else will go, you know, I played lacrosse and I just love it. We have to have lacrosse now. And what do we do then? Do we say yes to this one and yes to that one? And we have all these new opportunities. I think it's an injustice to our existing programs and our coaches to do this. They work hard to make our programs the best that they can be and our students the best that they can be. And the fact that we have no control over this football program gives me, that was one of the main reasons I said, no, I don't think we can do this. Now, I've only known, because I live in Washington, Connecticut, I don't know many people who have had their children play football. I know of one person in my oldest son's class that left Chupag to go to a private school to play football. I know 2 other people, 2 other friends who have had their children play sports, have played football. Both of them, one was from Torrington, the other one was from New Milford. Both of them had head injuries, and both of them were told, do not play football ever again because it will endanger your health. And Pete said this at the last meeting, we are who we are, and we do a really good job. And when it comes to academics, every day I will go, oh yes, we have to offer this. And it's not the money at all. To me, I just don't think it's the right thing to do for Region 12. I don't think it's the right thing to do for our sports programs because they are strong and they teach the kids the right things. And we have the right people teaching them what to do. And the feeder programs and the camps that we run. My kids went to all of them. They went to Ace Baseball School and they played in Little League and they did soccer and went to soccer camp. And I just don't think that the fact that we have no control over this football is a place for us to go to further our just to bring kids into the school system. I just don't think that that's what I want to do at all.
Okay, I'm sorry, who did I say was next? Justin, I think?
Yeah, I think it was Justin.
Me or Alex?
Well,
Go ahead,
I have
Justin.
a question. People keep saying kids from the ag science program, but this isn't limited to ag science kids. This would be all Chupag kids, right?
That's correct, Alex.
And they might be tuitioning in just because they want to go to Chupag and play football, not because they want to go to Agriscience and play football. Am I missing something?
You're not missing, and there are also students who are Bridgewater, Roxbury, and Washington students who may want to have an opportunity that hasn't been presented to them either.
Okay, but it's not an ag science issue.
No, it's not. It's not, Alex. The only reason ag science came up is because we do know that there are ag science students who would prefer to go to a school that plays football. And we do know that there are Sherman students who would prefer to go to a school that plays football, and they tuition in. And so the issue became, this is something that we would, it's not just because they pay tuition, but it's also because they're great kids and we'd like to have more kids in those programs. So it's a question of an opportunity or not an opportunity.
But it's not ag science specific.
No, it's not ag science
That's all I
tied.
need. Sorry, that's me. I'm done.
Yeah, no, we are not making it into the Aggies football team. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
For me, this is a very simple decision, and it's based on one question. And the question for me is, do I want to deny a handful of passionate children the opportunity to do this? And the answer is always going to be no. I cannot, in good faith, sleep at night knowing that I might be one of the people preventing somebody from following his or her lifelong dream. I can't do it. So, I'm happy that we are having this conversation and happy that we can offer this opportunity for kids. The other thing that, I don't know what the word is, but, a lot of the concerns, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm mishearing this, but if it seems like, this is a school, we're talking about a school district, and, if 20 years of being an educator has taught me anything, it's that we're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving. And a lot of the arguments against, the football program seem to be, just solely under the guise of protecting something, whatever we have here, just protecting it, but it's not a thing that really, we have to let it go. It has to evolve. Education has to evolve, and we as a district have to evolve. That's it. So I'm definitely voting yes.
Okay, Jane, next.
I'm coming at this from a really different angle, and I'm trying to keep my eyes wide open on it because I do believe in providing as many opportunities, and I do believe in education. We have to evolve. But I honestly think, and it's mainly focused at football, that having Chippewa become part of a football group where it may grow into it becomes part of Chippewa scares me. 40 years ago, my father-in-law, an amazing physician, he was my doctor as a child, my kid's doctor. My son was a big baby, and he said, this kid, they're going to want him in football. And he said, promise me, you will encourage him to do any other sport besides football. He had seen so much brain trauma during his career in the armed services as a doctor. My husband and I moved to a town in Connecticut and quickly realized there was a real football culture. It kind of, everything was planned around the football team. We heard about Region 15, all kinds of wonderful things, but one thing was that there was no football. And so we moved here. And I know there are a lot of people who moved here because there was no football. I worry, that was 40 years ago when this man was talking about brain trauma. And if you look at the research, there's more and more data pointing to soccer. If there's a lot of headbutting, but mainly football, a really bad trauma. We've had 2 friends played football, died of Lou Gehrig's disease. Just last week, Harvard Medical did a study pointing to, it's not conclusive, but there's some pretty compelling data that Lou Gehrig's, there's factors with football and Lou Gehrig's disease. So I'm really struggling with this because I heard the passion in that kid, but I wish it was something else he was interested in that doesn't whack his brain. Thank you.
Okay. Pete.
Oh, Matt, did you want to say something? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you, Pete. Now we can hear you, Pete. Pete, you've muted yourself. Please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Matt, did you want to say something before I speak?
I mean, I don't know what my place here is. I'll respond to any question anyone has. I mean, it seems like a board discussion. I mean, I spoke at length a couple of weeks ago. I would just say, one of if you decide to do this, one of my concerns is bus availability. This fall, we were in an unusual circumstance because of COVID and because of the shortage of drivers. On many days in the fall, we had 2 buses available for away games. On good days, we would have 3 buses available. And I will say this, we have, bar none, the best bus person in Pam Newton. If we ever have an issue, and I've worked with many bus people and it's not even close, she's the best. If we ever have a day where, I have to have like 3 or 4 buses, on occasion, she will figure out a way to juggle them. But there are times, and this happened a lot this fall, where I would, we'd have a rain out, or I have to schedule things so that we only have X amount of away games. And so, we have middle school field hockey, we have middle school girls soccer, we have middle school boys soccer, we have middle school cross country, we have high school. You guys all know the teams. There's a lot of teams. And if you do decide to do this, my worry, if we're devoting a bus every day to send an analog, that's reducing that. It's really going to create a major scheduling issue for the teams that we have. And look, you heard me say last time, when I'm saying something that is, possibly advocating for, not allowing for extra opportunities for kids, it's contrary to what I believe in and what I do. However, at Chippewa, we have a finite number of kids. And at sometime we have to draw the line and say, look, we can't offer every single thing the kids ask for. I will tell you this for sure. Lacrosse is coming next, and that will devastate the spring program if we were to have that. We just wouldn't be able to do it. And so obviously you guys have a tough decision to make, where to draw the line. Where do you draw that line? Is football the line? That's for you guys to decide. I know what I would decide. And I think, if just look up the road a little ways to Region 1. They offered in the 90s and the 2000s, anything someone wanted, they offered. Now they don't know from year to year. Are we going to have a team? Are we going to have field hockey? They don't have field hockey. Are we going to have enough for JV soccer? And they regularly have kids go to other private schools because of the programs that they have. They have soccer, they have football, they have this, but the state of it is so unpredictable as what they're going to have, that they got kids that just say, I'm not going to go here. Because I don't know what it's going to be in a couple of years. We have 42 kids that want to come, and we don't have football. You have 42 new applications. So anyways, if you guys have specific questions, I'll answer them.
Pete, before you jump in, I do need the board to take a vote. We are now crossed the line past 10 o'clock, and I need the board to vote to remain in session.
Yeah, I was going to move the question.
Well, no, before you move the question, we still have to vote to remain in session because we've got other things on the agenda after this. So here's the question. Do I have a motion to extend the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Opposed? I hear no one opposed. All those abstaining? I hear no one abstaining. It's unanimous. We can stay in session. Now, Pete, you want to call the question?
Yeah, I moved the question, whatever. It's either, what do you move it or call it? What do you want?
Well, it doesn't matter. Is there a second to that? This would cut off debate. It would end debate.
I'll second.
I moved and seconded. All those in favor of calling the question, which would put this to an immediate vote, please raise your hand and, raise your hand and say aye.
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 I hear 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, we're just saying we're gonna vote, right?
Right, yeah, we're not voting on the topic. You're just saying we're going to go right to a vote. We've had enough discussion. 1, 2, okay.
I think
All right,
we all-
but please hold your hand up and keep it up, please, so we can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 5. We have 11 people. It's not, it fails.
Oh, no, it doesn't, Greg. Hang on. 1, 2. Can hands back up, please?
Jane,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, we have 8. I'm sorry, I didn't see them. Thank you. Glad the math major could count. Okay, because clearly I can't. All right, so I guess all those opposed to calling the question, please signify by raising your hand. Well, 8, I see 3. Hold on a second. Let me see if there's anyone on the other page. Well, I see 3 that don't want to do it. So I guess some people aren't voting. So it's 8. Oh, no, that's 11. I'm sorry. 8. Yeah, I'm getting better at the math there. Okay, good. So I guess we're going to go right to a vote now. This is a question. The question is whether we would allow Chippewa students, a motion to allow Chippewa students to participate in the co-op football opportunity with Nonawag, Wamogo, and Wolcott Tech. I'm going to ask
Greg,
that this.
can I just make certain that I recognize with everyone, this is not about if we're going to provide transportation or what are the conditions thereof. This is about participation.
That's right. We have not decided on the issue of transportation. This is just whether or not we're going to allow students to participate in it. Thank you for clarifying that, Megan.
And we're not doing a number of students. We're not saying only a certain number.
No,
This is
it's just
up or down.
flat out question of whether we're going to permit it. And then if so, we'll have to settle the other details. Okay. Could I wonder if,
roll call?
yeah, I want to do a roll call vote.
What's the motion?
The motion is to do football.
The motion is whether we're gonna let students participate, whether we're gonna join the co-op, join the football co-op, so students at Chippewa can play football in this co-op. Okay.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Alrighty, guys. Joe.
Nay.
Okay. John.
Aye.
Angela.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
Jennifer. No. Jane.
No.
Julie.
Yes.
Peter.
No.
Mary.
No.
And Greg.
I'm voting yes.
All right.
What was the count?
6-5.
Which
It's
way?
approved. The answer, the yay, the motion carried.
I didn't count. Okay.
Yeah, the motion carried by a vote of 6-5. Okay. We don't have anything else on the agenda for figuring these things out, so I'm sure the superintendent will report back to us on the issue of transportation and the other issues that we may have to decide. And is that correct, Megan? Is that what your plan is?
That is part of the plan, and that can be part of our conversation. So at this point, this is the only thing that's been opened up as an opportunity.
Okay. All right, at this point, I would entertain a
Can I comment on
motion.
that? Can I make a quick comment on
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Jennifer Pody raised an interesting point. She stated that she thinks that putting more money into the sports programs would create more interest. I believe that there's probably other reasons why interest is waning in certain programs. So I think we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting as to what exactly is happening with active participation and who, and some of the reasons, for recruiting more involvement. Anyway, maybe we could get it on a future agenda.
Yeah, John, I'll discuss that with the superintendent and she with her staff, and we'll see whether or not that, there's some kind of presentation we could make. I wouldn't want to put anyone under the gun to get it done at the next meeting, however. So, but we'll try to get it on the agenda for a future meeting.
I'm going to guess, Greg, our next meeting agenda might be pretty full.
Yeah, it's probably the case. All right, so at this point, I would like to ask if there's a motion to go into executive session to discuss non-certified, non-union staff increases, teacher union MOU consideration, and a matter for personnel.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? All right, we are going to go into executive session at this point.